Now we got it, I think. Good morning, everybody. You are tuned to Computers 2K now on the Nissan Communications Network. I'm Anwan, your host for the next few hours, along with Mike.
Good Sunday morning to you. Welcome into Rick's house. Well, wrong show. Welcome into Computers 2K now.
And Bruce is here. And he's muted.
He's muted.
And Bruce is here. There he is.
Yeah, live from the Florida Space Coast.
And Nick is here.
Oh, hello.
Hello. Our number is 919-518-9773. Computers 2K Voice on Skype. And this morning's show is being brought to you by that vidblasterguy.com, Tom Sinclair, and by Adamus.com, makers of quality video recorders and converters for professionals. So what I see right now is the problem is Bamboozer.
Not a
For
surprise.
some reason,
That's a shock.
It's not connecting.
Oh, no. They probably shut down.
Yeah. So what's going on?
What's going on with you?
All right, now it connected. Something must have been.
I did it should have been a 12-hour drive. It ended up being almost a 13-hour drive. But what in the world is with the traffic in South Carolina? Doesn't matter whether you're on I-95 or I-26. If you are in a spring break window of time, traffic in South Carolina on both those interstates is horrendous. I mean, this is the third year in a row that I've seen that. But had a good time, had my granddaughter with me. We rented a Camaro SS and drove down here for our spring break road trip. She's enjoying some time with her other grandparents, and I'm here for a week of work. And we'll drive across the state later this week, go to Newport Richey, and enjoy some time on the Gulf beaches.
My wife said there was a race in Darlington yesterday.
Oh,
that makes sense.
So that could be an issue.
yeah.
I also heard there was a lot of construction. I had friends that went down there. They said the construction was pretty bad.
I've never had traffic issues in South Carolina. Atlanta's where I always get bound up.
This is what's really weird, and it's not like, and I'm using Waze, and it'll say there's an accident reported ahead. But it's like this deal where you'll be bumper to bumper, dead stop, and then everybody will start moving again, and you'll get up to 70 miles an hour, and traffic's moving along, and then all of a sudden, within like 5 minutes, it backs back down again, and you're back bumper to bumper, dead stop. And then you do the same thing again. It's just cycling.
Accordion.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's weird.
I'm convinced there's one driver up there doing that. They get their nerve up to speed up, and then they get scared and slow down. And that driver is 24/7 on the road. Every time you get on the road, he or she's always in front of you.
Yeah, and they're always in the passing lane, the fast lane.
Yeah. But they used to have lanes that said, signs that said slower traffic, keep right.
Right.
I haven't seen one of those in forever.
Mm.
But going to my office, there is a place where two interstate highways, one merges into the other. There are two lanes merging into four lanes. And for some reason, these dummies coming from the non-merging interstate will pull over and stay in the right lane all the way through the intersection and slow down to bumper when they could move over two lanes and keep going 60 miles an hour. Yeah. And you watch them to see, well, maybe they're trying to get off at the next exit. Nope. I mean, there ought to be a sign there that says through traffic, left lanes.
What do you think that would matter?
It might matter for 3 or 4 people. That'd be 3 or 4 less of a problem. I'd be willing to try it. It's really interesting because also on the way, we have a road that is a T intersection. The road that comes into the T has its own right turn lane. You don't have to stop. It's a 24/7 yield sign, even though there's a stoplight there. Every morning, there's always one person or two people who want to sit there and stop and wait for traffic when they have their own lane. I think there needs to be a flashing yellow light that says, "You have your own lane. Keep moving, moron."
You know, that's everywhere, though.
Yeah.
People just don't know how to yield.
Yeah. Well, I blow the horn at them. It rarely does any good, but it makes me feel better. So.
Well, I managed to kill Tokshu also, but I'm not worried about that.
You killed him.
It said that the recording failed to start. And at that point, if you clicked OK, it just knocks it completely out and you can't go back in. And I remember Steve was saying that when this happens, you just can't get in.
No, you have to start a new show.
Yeah. So
Call, as they
never
call
mind.
it.
Never mind. Anyway, just so everybody is on the same. At 11:30 we're going to have a guest, Cynthia Tertier. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. She's going to talk about a new website that she created, firstinteraction.com, something to do with safe place for people to meet. And Nick looked at it last night and said, it's a dating site.
Well, yeah, I'm not sure.
I don't know. But anyway, she's supposed to be an expert on safety and on social media, and we're going to talk about that. Or we're going to make sure we're going to talk about that.
Yep.
Well, even you know what? Think about it for a second.
Yeah.
Nick sent me a comment, but when you have guests on the show, the reason these guests get up at 5:30 in the morning in Hawaii to do a guest appearance on the show is because they have something they want to promote.
Absolutely.
I think that's fair. I mean, that's what I would do. I mean, if you hire a public relations consulting company to help you sell your book, they're going to start booking you on all these shows, most you've never heard of, most of which will do you no good whatsoever, but you just have to go out and harvest all of the help you can get and move on from there.
I was talking to Amnon about this last night, and I think that there's a difference between promoting your stuff and just like for example, if I was to say I am a gaming and tech expert, and I was to join the show and for half an hour just talk about how my podcast is the best, that's not what I said I was. That's not what I said I was.
You know where
if I came on here and talked about the Xbox One for half an hour and mentioned, hey, I do a podcast on Thursday nights, that's different than, well, you should watch my podcast because this.
Right. But that's up to the host to drive that conversation.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's not, I mean, if I go on somebody's show selling something, I'm going to go on my sales mode. Look, there are two trains of thought, and what you're saying is a valid issue. There are two trains of thought, though, in marketing, and Bruce, I'm sure, deals with this on a regular basis, and that is whenever you sell yourself as an expert or when you're trying to hawk a product, there are really two ways to do it. One would be called the hard sell, where you get in and talk about your product and how great it is, and aren't you lucky that you know me because I sell that product. And the other is where you position yourself as a true expert on the product, which is called a consultant sell. The idea being that, wow, Nick is so smart with games, maybe we ought to hire him to help us with our problem. They're both valid approaches, and you have to be able to think on your feet and to be able to adjust which method works in a particular situation. Amnon, check Computers 2K now and make sure that you're monitoring it.
As far as
people calling you not answering.
Really?
Yeah.
It's up.
Yes.
It's Computers 2K voice. I didn't mean
sometimes
2K.
that line has an issue. I've had issues that
All right, let me
Andrew just sent me a
restart it.
message.
Let me restart it.
Where for some reason Skype just doesn't connect your call.
Yeah, you know, the other thing, I want to buy something from somebody I like. I want to buy something from somebody that seems like he's a good guy. He's got integrity or a good gal. They're not trying to scam me, you know. you build a relationship, and I agree with you wholeheartedly.
You know, it's interesting because I don't really care whether I like the person, but I need to trust them.
Right, and that's primarily what I'm saying.
You know,
I think they're different approaches.
it did not ring, but I do see now that I restarted it, a recent, and it says that Andrew Zarian tried to call.
Yeah, and because if you like someone, you'll sort of inherently trust them, which is, I think, what you're saying. But I have to deal with some people I don't like at all, but they know what they're doing.
I mean,
Andrew,
you can tell when somebody's legitimately trying to help you, when somebody's trying to sell you a washer dryer set in the Sears aisle. You know,
Can you?
I can. Oh yeah.
Oh, no. You can, because you're in that business.
Right.
And this is why I've said to my kids and I say to Nick and I say to people who, you know how many people say, boy, I can't stand salespeople. I can't stomach salespeople. Let me tell you something. You need to go get a book on how to sell, read that book and understand it, because if you don't, you are a sitting duck when you run into one of these hotshot salespeople. The techniques are all pretty similar. How do you persuade somebody to trust you? How do you get them to think they like you? How do you persuade them that your product is the best one? I got to tell you, it's an eye opener, because the first time I ever read one of those books, and it said, when you approach your prospect, be sure to whatever. And I'm sitting there reading that, and I say, how many times has this happened to me? I had no idea that I was being manipulated according to a checklist that some salesman read a long time before I did. And good salespeople, you don't have that problem. I mean, a good salesperson with a good product and an honest intent, you don't have those issues. But when somebody's trying to pull the wool over your eyes, you need to keep your eyes open.
Andrew, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I feel like I haven't been on the show in weeks.
Well, maybe it's because you haven't been on in weeks.
I haven't been on in weeks.
Does your laptop have has an arm on it, as in a one-arm bandit?
Why?
I don't know. I figured you got used to it when you were out in Vegas.
Oh, yeah. I loved it. I had such a great time at Vegas.
So what's up?
Nothing much. I want to call and say hello. I was in Vegas last week for the NAB show, the National Association of Broadcasters conference that they hold every year.
Yeah.
I got to see some cool things.
Well, tell us.
Tell us.
So I guess you want to. Did you guys talk about Skype last week?
No. Go ahead, because even if we did, you've got better information.
No, we
would have.
talked about Skype twice this morning already. Problems with Skype, but that's not what you want to talk about.
That's not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the Skype TX for broadcasters.
Go ahead.
Go.
Did you guys hear about it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
We have, but a lot of people listening may not have. So why don't you go ahead and tell us about Skype TX?
So Skype TX is a hardware-software solution that Skype is working on. They bought this company called Cat and Mouse or Mouse. I forgot the name of the company. Someone could look it up so I don't sound stupid. It's already too late for that. But Mike, if you could look it up, what the company is that they bought. So they bought this company and they've been working with them on building this hardware-software solution for Skype. And apparently in the next 9 months, they're going to have a special version of Skype dedicated to broadcasters where you're going to be allowed to kind of control all the types of settings that you want to do, like bandwidth for video, bandwidth for audio, audio codec. I think you could go up to 10 megabits a second for the video, 1080p. Just everything that we've been asking for from Skype, we're going to be able to do.
The company is Cat and Mouse.
Cat and Mouse, yeah. Cat and Mouse. We don't have a price yet on the box.
Yeah, right.
But if you want to sign up, you could sign up for their beta program where they're looking for people that do internet broadcasting to sign up and start testing within the next month or two.
Where
But with
can
what?
people go?
If you just Google Skype TX, actually on the IIB I have a link to it.
Okay.
On the main page of the IIB I have an article, and then you could just click on that Skype link in there. I don't know the exact URL. It was a weird URL.
SkypeTX.com.
Is it?
There is a website, SkypeTX.com. I don't know about the beta sign up here.
I don't know if that's the site. Okay, immediate sign up. Okay. More about Skype TX. Click on that.
I'm looking at it.
And then scroll down. There's a thing that you can fill out.
Yeah, that's it. Tell us if and when it'll be available.
Yeah. That's when they're looking for people. They're going to send out an email asking for people if they're interested.
All right. I guess I'll sign up for it then.
You guys test it. I'm not interested.
Now you say software and hardware solution. Are you saying there's going to be a hardware piece that's going to come with this?
There's going to be a box. Yeah, it's going to have HDMI and HDSDI also. Currently, that's what they're going to release first, but they are saying that a lot of these features are going to be implemented in the next version of Skype.
Is their target audience primarily cable companies, NBC, ABC, CBS, Fox, CNN?
Yes, and also, any kind of these online networks like Huffington Post is doing a lot of online stuff for Skype. A lot of news outlets now have their own, online division, and like CBS Interactive, be perfect for them. A lot of ESPN has their online. A lot of these companies have, and this is what was told to me, they have contracts with Cisco for telepresence, and they're realizing that the audio on Skype is still far more superior than what they're able to do with the Cisco units, and they're paying so much for that. So I had a feeling Microsoft was going to get invested in the telepresence field, and I think this is their way of doing it. But it's fascinating that they're targeting broadcasters.
That's who's going to pay them.
Who hasn't got any money?
I'm looking at, if I were to take an intelligent guess based on what was said to me, there's going to be multiple versions of this. Currently, they're going to be releasing a one instance version of Skype, but they're looking to have up to 4 instances running on one box. So I think they're going to go anywhere from like $399 all the way to $1,000.
And they're talking in this when you're saying instances, they are going to run the video and audio right on the box, so you could take 4 people and display them. I mean, if you're sitting somewhere, why would you need 4 instances?
Well, I would
think about it.
I use 4 instances of Skype now.
No, but that's different. That's on your end. I don't think these guys, the broadcasters, are they actually using Skype in the switching?
They are.
Okay.
This is a much cheaper solution for them to do on-site reporting, remember?
Yeah.
All they got to do is connect because it's going to have its own capture card, primarily.
But they also have terms of service that make them unusable for some broadcast outlets. And unless they're going to modify those terms of service, they're going to be limited from the get-go.
Well, I think this is going to have a different terms of service.
That would be my guess as well, but we haven't heard that.
See, I think the price point for the box is going to be too much.
For podcasters, broadcasters won't sneeze at it.
Oh, of course.
Well, $1,000, Nick. $1,000 is it really too much? Knowing that you have all the control that you want. For you, it is. For me, it's not.
It is for me.
It is for me,
Andrew, you would spend $1,000
for his link to Spencer. Of course, he would.
Yes, I would. Yeah, for my link to Spencer, I would.
Now,
absolutely.
Why do you think that this is going to do a better job?
Because you're going to have control over the settings. So I saw a demo, and it actually allows you to set the resolution. It allows you to set the streaming resolution, the global resolution. It allows you to set the bit rate that you want to do. It allows you to set the audio codec you want to do. You can flip between. They're not calling it Opus, by the way. They're calling it something else. But you could flip between Opus and Silk, or you could let it auto adjust. You could do peer-to-peer, or you could do through their server. So there's a lot of options that you're going to be allowed to do with this.
See, that's why I think that they should just work this into the client. I don't know why I would need to buy a box.
They can't because of the firmware built into the box. It's going to have some. It's going to have. I've not read this. I'm just telling you based on what I understand about hardware. It's probably going to have a much different error correction algorithm built in to the box that they cannot put into a PC or a Mac.
Well, here's the other thing. You're going to be able to do sync delay as well.
And again, most people that doesn't matter.
Yeah, so you're going to be able to do sync delay. Now, the other thing, Nick, is that once it's on the hardware, this is going to trickle down to the software. And I would not be surprised if they offer a software version of this available to, everybody, where you pay for the software. You either you pay a monthly fee or you pay a one-time flat fee, and now you have the software on your hardware.
See, that's what I would be more keen to doing is to do a monthly service.
Now, can you have the box on one end and just the version of Skype on the other?
Absolutely.
So it doesn't have to be hardware to hardware.
It may be, but it's going to adjust to the lowest common denominator.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I mean, sometimes it may not talk to it, period.
But when I spoke to them, I spoke to one of their head developers that was there. He actually knew me because of Paul, because of What the Tech. So we were talking, and he kept bringing up Twit. I'm like, well, Twit's really not using a Skypeosaurus, but let me explain to you all the problems that we have with Skype and what Twit does and what I do. And I told him about the incompatibilities with capture cards. I told him how the capture cards don't work. I told him how you can't send HD with the latest version if you're trying to do return video via Wirecast and VidBlaster. And it was like these guys had never heard that these problems existed.
They don't pay attention to people like
he was blown away that there are this many issues. He's like, well, I don't understand. He's like, well, we have worked with Livestream. I'm like, yeah, but even with Livestream, you don't send HD back. And he goes, oh, we had no idea. So he actually grabbed my information and he sent me an email yesterday saying that he wants to talk this week.
Oh, that's good.
So, but they were shocked to hear about these problems.
How do they not know that this stuff exists, though? I mean,
Mike is muted.
No, I'm not.
Not now.
No, I was just saying that. But that's good news to an extent. Let's hope he can carry through. So I see him walking into a meeting where they're discussing the breakout and the rollout of this technology, and he brings in all of these issues that that Andrew feeds back to them. And I can understand where they might say, oh, we didn't realize broadcasters needed this, so they decide whether to include those sorts of things. Then there's a subsequent meeting that says, now, do we roll these down into regular Skype? And I hear some manager saying, well, wait a minute, if we do that, then that's going to reduce the demand for the premium product. So if we bring that technology down into the client, we're going to cut our own throats. Also,
okay, Mike, here's the argument with that, okay?
Well, hang on. Hang on.
Yeah.
Then the other thing they're going to say is, and there are 50 people out there who need these other 50 companies or podcasters who need these resources for Skype. So do we worry about those 50 versus the 50 million people using the client, or do we just say, look, if you want the technology, you buy the box? Now you go ahead.
Well, the issue with that is that they're narrowing themselves to, with this box, and they are going to release a software version. They said they are going to do that, but that's going to come after the release of the hardware. They don't have a time frame for the software, so maybe a year from now for the software. But for the hardware, they're looking about 8 months. They're going to have to, because not everybody on the go is using SDI. If you're on the go and you want to use this, maybe you're going to have an HDMI camera just to shoot back to the studio as a backup. So they're going to have to offer the ability to use your own hardware with this. The problem with that is supporting all the hardware, because now when you're in the broadcasting field, you have to make sure that this thing is compatible. So they don't have compatibilities. I think Mike wants you to flip the camera.
I don't know what Mike did there, but hey, Mike.
What?
Oh, you covered it?
No.
It went blank, kind of.
Oh, maybe you left it on too long.
I'm gonna tell you guys a funny Skype story to talk about how they're very confused.
That was good. That was good. Yeah.
Go ahead.
So
go ahead.
When they changed this about a year ago. So Nick, you probably noticed this. When you full screen video, right? It'll always do 16:9.
Yes.
It'll fill the monitor up. It won't do, letterbox. if the guy's sending you 4x3.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of laptops. Go ahead, Nick.
I was just going to say, recently, I've started during the show. Now I have a guest on or a co-host on Skype every week, and I have never had an issue with him not going 16:9.
Okay, because he probably has the decent hardware for it.
Yeah, but I just like that used to be a big issue with Skype, Andrew, right? Like,
but a lot of these older guys, like Mike, they may have a 4x3 camera.
What?
Yeah. But it just used to be this big, like, all right, call me back. Okay, I'll restart. No, you restart. Yeah. Okay, call me back again. Hold on. Wait 5 minutes. So it's normally instant now.
Yeah.
Over here, when, like, Nick called this morning, when he called first, it was 16:9. We had to redo it, and Bruce called in, and he was 16:9. But the minute the second person calls, bang, it goes back to...
Yeah, that's a group, but that's a group calling. That's how the group calling works. So I'm talking like individual, like Amnon. You're not sending a 16:9 video. You're sending 4x3, right?
Right.
Okay. So if you were to Skype me and you were a guest on my show, and I want to make you full screen and just use, on my second monitor, and that's what's going out to my Blackmagic card, it would stretch you to fit the screen. On the Mac version, if you full screen a 4x3 video, it auto detects that as 4x3. So you could double click and make it either fit the screen and stretch it, or you could double click and it'll still be full screen, but it'll be letterbox. It'll have the black bars on the side. On the Windows version, it doesn't do that. It just stretches it out. So I told Paul this, and Paul goes, you know what? Here's an email to a developer. They're sending the email. I sent the email, and he goes, oh, yeah, weren't aware of the bug. Thank you for discovering it. We're fixing it in the next version.
How?
The next version comes out. Whoa. The next version comes out, and you know what their fix was? Not when you full screen, but if you expand the video when it's 4x3, it's 4x3. And I go, that's so half-assed. Why wouldn't you fix it?
See, you know what this tells me, Andrew? We had no clue means that they don't know how to do something, and that's what they use as their excuse.
It's the bureaucracy of this is how it works. The Mac developers write for the Mac, and the Windows developers write for Windows, and they don't do bug reports to each other because they're on different platforms. There's no excuse for a Microsoft product to work better on the Mac than it does on Windows.
Well, it's the same thing with Wirecast, isn't it?
Yeah, but
that's not a Microsoft product
that was written for Windows.
Oh, okay, I see, yeah.
And actually
that just shows how much they care.
That actually makes sense. This baffles me, and still to this day, it is not fixed. If someone is sending you 4x3, it'll stretch out the entire display. So what I have to do when I make it full screen, I got to expand the video, then crop the top and the bottom.
Yeah, that's stupid.
It's really stupid.
And that just shows that they don't care. Because if they care, they'd fix it. Either that
they don't care or they don't get it. They don't get what people use the software for.
Yeah, but how could the Mac version have it implemented?
Screen, you don't care if it's stretched.
Well, there's no doubt in my mind that they don't get it. Whether they care would be harder to determine. They clearly don't get it. Good grief. I mean, you guys know well, you probably don't know how often I talk with internet broadcasters and how much consulting I provide on a week's basis. And I'm just telling you, they don't get it. All the top to bottom, I even deal with companies, major names that we talk about here on this show. I'll talk with these guys. They don't get it. And part of it is they are not into podcasting and broadcasting. They're into the recording business. They like to deal with people who are making records and having recording studios. They are not into broadcasting. And in their defense,
you're absolutely right, Mike. 100%. 100%. 100%, because I was at NAB and I went and I spoke to a lot of these companies. A lot of these console makers, for example, there were a ton of them. Wheatstone was there, Telos was there, and a bunch of hundreds of other companies were there. When you go and you talk to them, because Spencer was looking at consoles, and he's talking to them. He's not playing up what he does or that he does this for a career. Every one of them said, when he said, "What do you do?" and he goes, "I'm an internet broadcaster." They go, "Oh, a lot of people use these consoles for hobbies." Every one of them. That was their response. A lot of people use these consoles for hobbies. And Spencer got annoyed. He goes, "How do you know I'm using this for a hobby?"
Making more money than you are.
You should have said that.
Yeah.
You should have said, I'm making more money than your entire company, but at least he's a little... I would have said that because I have no class, but...
Yeah, well, there is that.
You know who didn't respond like that? Telos. Telos did not respond like that, and Wheatstone didn't respond like that. Interesting how the two big players get it.
But isn't that with everything?
I found it amazing considering there's such a push for the internet, and these guys are treating it as if it's a hobby.
They don't get it though, Andrew. They're not consciously dissing the industry. That A, the numbers are infinitesimally microscopically small, and B, they're not interested in the market because they don't know anyone doing it.
But you know what's interesting though, Mike? These consoles, they don't sell hundreds of thousands of them a year.
No, but look what they sell for.
But you know how many Radius consoles are on the market from Telos? 2,500 probably.
That's a lot more than I would have thought.
They have sold 2,500 of these.
Yeah.
And they're a big company. Can you imagine a much smaller company? Maybe they're selling 50 a year. Why not make it 51? Why alienate an entire business if one person in that industry is going to buy it? You know they've sold maybe 5 or 6 Radius consoles because Telos has hooked our studio up.
Andrew, I have 2 people right now in a blue funk, one guy in a panic, because the ATR 2100 microphone, they strong-armed the USB plug on the microphone, knocked the connector off the motherboard inside the microphone so that the USB no longer works. They're in a blue funk because they spent all that money on broadcast equipment and now it's broken.
$34.
All that money.
I don't know what I would do.
I hear my dog calling, so I have to go feed my dog usually when I run into something like that.
Andrew, is it possible that Telos cares more because of Kirk, which knows what you're doing?
I think it's the culture of the company. The entire culture of the company is like that. Steve Church had a great mindset, and they've after his passing they've continued it. And Frank Fody's a good guy. I mean, he's a broadcaster, but they understand it to an extent. And you know what? And they advertise for me. They also don't get it at times. They also are missing the point. They don't understand that internet broadcasting is not about just playing records.
But this is with a lot of companies, Andrew. I mean, all of these companies, they don't hire people that do the stuff that they sell their product for.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because you go to the video side of NAB, and it was all. I mean, by the way, one of the most impressive things that I have seen is live stream.
Yep.
So impressed by their setup, how aggressive they've gotten into the market. I know a lot of people don't like them. They call it, it's just software on Windows and it's just Blackmagic cards. But they are doing such a good job at making a presence in the field. I was really disappointed with Telestream. They had zero presence for Wirecast. I mean, you just had like a computer with Wirecast running. Livestream on the other side has a gigantic booth, and they're showing all these switchers and software solutions. A lot of switchers this year on that side, but everybody understood that even if it's a hobby, they have to treat you like a paying customer. They all got it on the video side. On the audio side, not so much.
Well, let me say good morning to Steve.
Good morning, Amnon. Good morning, everybody.
Hello,
hey, Steve.
Good Sunday morning to you.
So let me ask you a question, Andrew. What blew you away the most in a positive sense at NAB? I mean, what was something that you saw or heard that just really blew you away?
On the video side, definitely Livestream. Livestream was really impressive with what they were doing. They have a lot of switching boxes, production boxes, and they range from anywhere, I think, from like $10,000 to like $27,000. It's competing with the TriCaster, but it was really impressive the way that they were displaying stuff. They have a beautiful switcher, a video switcher, button switcher, that was really impressive. A lot of 4K and 8K cameras, surprisingly very inexpensive if you think about it. Blackmagic has a 4K camera for like $2,000.
Yeah, I saw that.
I mean, and it comes with like a 10-inch display on it. I mean, that was pretty impressive if you think about it, considering, yeah, we're not going to do 4K for what we're doing, but the fact that it's $2,000 and it's totally expandable with all the lenses, I thought that was pretty cool. This year, it seemed like it was about hardware switchers, like the one that Livestream has. A lot of companies are displaying those, and very high-end ones. A lot of the button makers, I guess is that what you would call it, Mike? The buttons that you push on a switcher.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, certainly the button manufacturers, the push button switches. All they are switches.
Here. Tons of those on the video side. Tons of those. On the audio side, nothing was really impressive. I mean, Telos was there. Control surfaces. There you go. That's the word.
Audio is not important.
Yeah. On the audio side, nothing was really impressive. I was actually disappointed on the fact that it's all old fuddy-duddies just standing around talking about what they're going to eat later. No offense, Mike.
I beg your pardon.
Nothing.
No.
I was very surprised on how aggressive the video side was and how it was all glitz and glam. And on the audio side, you know who got it? The microphone manufacturers were really into it. They got really, like Neumann, Sennheiser. They were really friendly. They took down all your information. I spoke to MLX. I didn't even bother with them.
MXL.
MXL. They were totally confused. I spoke to Sennheiser and I spoke to Neumann, and they were very interested in what people on the internet want.
They have any good swag?
Nothing. Nobody had anything. Just a bunch of literature. Who needs I don't need no stinking books.
Mm. Well, I'm using speaking of microphones, I'm using a new microphone.
What are you using?
Can you see it?
Yeah. Is this
Telefunken M82? Telefunken was the company that originally became Neumann, and there was some trading back and forth of designs and so forth, and there was a lot of interplay between the two. They weren't the same company, but it's a dynamic microphone, large diaphragm dynamic microphone from Telefunken, so I'm going to be doing a review on it. It's $400.
But Bruce, to kind of sum up what you had asked, nothing really super impressive except for the live stream stuff. That was cool.
So where do you go from here on live stream? Are you going to use it?
No, unless they give me one.
Yeah.
If they give me one, I'll use it. But
don't you have to pay for their bandwidth?
Not if you got the hardware.
Oh.
Yeah, not if you use their hardware.
Actually, when they were talking, and for all places in the VidBlaster forum, I saw something about live stream from Andrew Seabrook. So I went and looked, and he was talking about how live stream is the delay, the latency is almost non-existent, and how good a quality it is. So I said, well, let me go and see, because I have an account. So I went to look, and I couldn't figure out how to broadcast. And then I started reading about their plan, and you can have the free plan, and it's unlimited and all that, but everybody that's watching has to have an account with them.
Yeah, that's for the free version.
Yeah. I mean, the next step up is $50, I think, or $40, something like that. But the free one is pretty nice, and I guess we were talking about it, Nick and I, last night, and it's Probably because nobody's using it.
Yeah.
That their latency is so.
Hey, Mike, the Telefunken mic that you have, which Neumann would that be equivalent to?
They don't have one.
Because Telefunken is Neumann, right? Essentially.
No, not anymore.
Not anymore. They were the same guys.
Well, it's been a long time since I've read the history, but for example, if the most famous microphone in the world is the U47. And, I mean, these microphones are going for the used ones, which they haven't made them in 25, 30 years. They're going for anywhere from $10,000 to $30,000 a piece because they're classics. I mean, these are what the Beatles used to make all their records. And if you see Frank Sinatra, that's usually what he's singing into. I mean, they are the most famous microphone in the world. There were two versions of it. There was the Telefunken U47 and the Neumann U47. They were the same microphone. There was this cross relationship between them back in those days where it was exactly the same microphone. Now, who was doing what, I don't know. I don't know what the overlap is, but the Telefunken of today is not the Telefunken of the past. The company actually got out of the microphone business. There was such a demand for these products that some guys got to put the company back together. They went back and recreated the U47, which you can buy again now. It's not the same microphone. A new microphone is not going to sound the same as a 50-year-old microphone. But even then, it only matters in recording studios. It does not matter one iota for broadcasting. And that's why I tell people that they ask, should I go buy that $400 microphone? No. I would not, unless you're going to do some voiceover work or do some things other than internet broadcasting. Go get an ATR 2100 or AT2005. If you really want it, go buy it. I consulted with a guy last night who just bought a PR40. With his voice, it sounded fabulous. It was probably the best audio sound I've heard on a Google Hangout. But two-thirds of the way through, it deteriorated back to Google's garbage. So that's a good term, Google garbage. And it sounded terrible, but it worked for him. It fit his voice. So I do think that, and by the way, with this particular microphone, you know how we always say you should pick the microphone that suits your voice?
Yes, sir.
This microphone is one, it doesn't sound my voice probably sounds no different whatsoever to anybody on it, but particularly through the stream. But
right.
The bottom line with this microphone is that it will, if you have a lot of bass in your voice, this microphone will make more of a difference than a PR40 or an RE20. I don't know if it's better or worse, but it will be different. A lot of people say, I can't hear any difference. But if you were to hear a guy with a great booming voice on this, a PR40, a condenser mic, you would be able to hear a difference much more so than you would on something like an ATR 2100.
Are you watching the chat? Minor is asking, is it a really old mic or one that can be bought now?
Depends on which one you're talking about. The one I'm talking into right now is brand new. The U47 is one that the new version of the U47 is a good microphone, but it's overpriced. It's not the same as the old microphone. You can still buy old U47s, but you're going to pay as much for them as you would pay for a car. Tim S. is asking, is the ATR 2500 okay? It depends on what you mean by okay. It's a condenser microphone. If you're going to use it for podcasting in a room with computers and noises and fans and non-acoustical treatment, then I think you'll be making a mistake to buy it. But if you buy one and you like it and you're happy with it, then yes, it's okay.
My personal opinion is I don't like the sound that you're producing on that. It's got no depth to it at all, Mike.
Well, but you know what's interesting, Steve, that the boomy radio voice Charlie Van Dyke sound is out of vogue at the moment. These little pansy-sounding high-pitched voices seem to be much more in demand now.
Don't insult me like that.
Well, the shoe fits.
I will say this. If you want a little more bass to your voice, just get a cold. And I want to add this. There is a special place in heaven for the people who invented nasal spray.
It's good stuff.
Mike, I don't want to spend more than $20 though.
All right, then go get the Radio Shack 33-0660 dynamic microphone, XLR and USB. But once you plug the XLR plug into it, don't ever expect to remove it.
Uh-oh. Nick, you're muted.
Oh, yes, I am muted. Yeah, that's not 100% true, Mike.
Of course it is.
No, it's not.
Of course it is.
How?
Because when I say things, sometimes I say them for comedic effect and exaggeration, and so therefore under that understanding that some of the comments I make are in that vein, then it's totally accurate.
I think that's a bit misleading. Why don't you do a little background on this microphone?
Don't be a hater.
I'm sorry.
Why don't you do it?
What? You just brought it up. What do
I know, but I've just passed the torch to you. Go for it.
Oh, great.
You played with it more.
That's what you get, and you stick your hand up. Teacher, would you talk about it? Okay, Nick, would you stand up and you explain to the class how that works?
Well, now I know not to raise my hand in class anymore.
No, you should. Yeah, hey. So go ahead, tell us.
All right. I think it was last week we were in a Google Plus Hangout, and we were browsing around the internet, and we found... Let me post a link in chat here. We found a microphone from Radio Shack. I just posted a link in chat for it. And it looks very, very similar to the Audio-Technica ATR 2100. So, we checked it out. It was only $20, which is first like, oh, this thing must be a piece of junk. But it looks so similar to the 2100 that Mike went out and bought one. Right, Mike? So Mike went out, got one. And he said he sent me an audio sample test he did between this and the 2100, and yeah, there was a bit of a difference there. Obviously, the $20 mic did not perform as well as the $80 one, but for the price, I went out, I bought one, and I gave it to the co-host of my podcast that I do, and it's
on the radar.
Yeah, and it's at. Sounds pretty good for a $20 mic.
Yeah,
it doesn't sound like garbage.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not as bad as most $30 or $40 microphones.
Yeah, I mean you could definitely go out to the store and there's probably a $30 or $40 Walmart microphone that probably sounds worse than that.
Much worse. I mean, and my observation would be that you cannot work it as closely as you can work an ATR 2100. The pop filter in it is not as effective, and I don't think the electronics have as much headroom in them as the ATR 2100 has.
Yeah, the popping is definitely an issue.
So I would suggest that if you get one if you've got a lot of noise in your room, I wouldn't do it because you're going to need to back up at least 1 inch farther from it than you do from the ATR 2100.
And Mike, you were saying you weren't kidding about the XLR connector. You said that right off the bat that it was not machined right, but you also said I'd like to hear from others.
Right.
If this is just the one that you got. Now,
yeah. It wasn't. You could get it out. It was snug.
Right.
There's
no
Nick,
argument. Wait, Nick. Was yours something? Was yours similar to what Mike was? I mean, it was.
Well, I'm not sure really how Mike's was.
But
Mike,
you noticed the difference between it and the ATR 2100 on the XLR connector?
Oh yeah, for sure.
The snugness of the connector.
Okay.
And what happens is that the cable that comes with that microphone, and this is actually a good point too, the cable that comes with it has XLR on one end and 1/4-inch phone plug on the other. If you don't already have an XLR to XLR cable, you're going to have to buy one to use it with that microphone if you're using it with a mixer. If you're using it USB, you're good to go.
Yeah.
So that being said, depending on the XLR connector, the ones I use are primarily made by Switchcraft and Neutrik. So between those two, which are professional industry standard quality connectors, it's almost impossible to plug it into and out of the Radio Shack microphone.
Mine was not as bad. I tried it on the initial one, or the one that they give you with the microphone, and it was snug. And then I tried it with the one that I'm using on my microphone now, and it was snug, but you could definitely get the cable back out.
Let me just tell you this as being a fact. It is absolutely a manufacturer's design flaw that it's that tight to plug that connector into the microphone.
But if what I was saying, and I'm gonna go. I had the store order another one. I think for me, it's a great thing to get for a backup. I mean, I'm not gonna buy a 2100 and spend $75 as a backup, but I could definitely get away doing a show with that microphone for 1 week while I wait for another
for sure
to come in.
Because unfortunately, there is an issue with the ATR 2100s, AT2005s, and what's happening is that the USB connectors are failing on them as people tend to strong arm them. The connector, in fact, I've got one right here. This is actually the headphone jack, not the USB connector. I don't think you can see it very well, but let's see here. If you try to look here, I don't know how well this is going to work, but it's a little tiny thing.
It's too far, yeah.
But I'm going to try to rotate it here. There's a lag, but you can't see it. But what's there? You see those little feet, little tiny feet hanging on there? That's what attaches to the circuit board. So what it means is that when you push in on this thing, when you plug the connector, and the USB connector is the same way, when you plug into it, you put pressure on these feet that will pull them off of the circuit board. There's just not a lot of strength there. It's only held on by A, the feet being soldered to the circuit board, and B, the copper on the circuit board being bonded to the epoxy of the circuit board. If you were to look at this one in my hand, you would see that the copper traces from the circuit board are still soldered to the legs on here, meaning that this cannot be easily repaired. If I were to go in to repair this microphone, I would take some epoxy and glue this to the board, but then I would actually have to put in some wire jumpers to connect these pins to the circuit traces on the motherboard, because the pads that this soldered to are gone. They're actually still stuck on this connector, and people are running into that on the ATR 2100, and they supposedly have a 2-year warranty. I don't know what these guys are doing with this 2-year warranty when they're getting them back. I don't know if they're repairing them or what, but if Audio-Technica is getting a bunch of them back, then they are going to be really, really unhappy with this product, because they made no money on it to start with. If they are having to send out new ones in replacement for them, my guess is that they're going to discontinue the product.
That would suck.
That's my guess. Why would you? I mean, if you're shipping a product that is inherently flawed, and it's costing you 3 times as much to maintain in the warranty period as it is that you're going to make on it, why would you continue to do it?
Yeah. I just don't understand the price on it, man.
I don't either. It makes no sense.
It was $54 last week. It's now back up to $70. Doesn't make it. I don't get it.
I think that's a supply and demand thing. I think the supplies are low. I think that they probably are not in inventory at Audio-Technica is what's happened. I think they're probably back ordered to the dealers. That's my guess. I have no inside information. I could probably get an answer, but I don't really care that much.
Well, we all know how rugged the Shure microphones were, and still are. I mean, as far as throwing around on the stage and everything. This ATR 2100, man, it just gets tossed in my backpack when I travel every month, and it has just performed flawlessly. I've not had any difficulties at all with any of the plugs or anything yet. So,
but here's the scoop, Bruce. Let's assume that for the moment that they were still available for $35 a piece. If you ended up losing that one to tomorrow, you've gotten your money's worth out of it.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a cheap piece of equipment. It's not intended to be a Shure SM58 for $100.
Right.
But nevertheless, I mean, even cheap, we like to continue using it as long as we can.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing, is that to use, if you're gonna buy something that you're gonna use a lot, and you can buy one that costs $600 and one that costs $40. And the $40 is satisfactory. I mean, more than just satisfactory. You're better off with that because sooner or later, you're going to abuse it if you use it a lot. And it's a whole lot easier to go and get another $40 one instead of having to either deal with repairing the $400 one or buying a new one.
Okay, you're off axis on the microphone since you wanted to know.
Okay.
So, but at $70, the equation changes a little bit. I mean, if you're going to have to go buy a new $70 mic every year, that gets a little painful.
Right, and that's why, I mean, if like Bruce is saying, his ATR 2100, I mean, he tosses it in the backpack. I mean, you don't worry about packing it in foam and putting it nice and easy. You just put it there.
Well, the problem with cheap equipment is the shipping charges. What would it cost? What do you think it costs to ship an ATR 2100 back to the manufacturer?
Why would you do it anyway?
Why would you? Because if they're going to give you a new one, it would save you $70.
Oh, okay. I have no idea what it'll cost.
$7, $8.
To ship?
Yeah.
Well,
have you not shipped much lately?
I have not.
Wow. I mean, it's ridiculous. Even with a business account, FedEx and these guys for ground, it's getting expensive. I mean, the Amazons and those guys, they've got really sweetheart shipping deals with these companies. They can ship for a lot less than we can. But when you and I want to go ship something, they're burning us a new one.
Oh, Andrew went away.
Probably passed out.
No. Let's see what else going on. Let me just. Hey, Steve.
Hello.
The UK government has signed a contract worth £5.5 million, almost $9 million, for extended support and security updates for Windows XP for 12 months after April 8. The deal covers XP, Exchange 2003, and Office 2003 for users in central and local government, schools, and the National Health Service. The NHS is in need of this deal because it was estimated last September that 85% of the NHS's 800,000 computers were running XP. Now, I'm asking, was this just kind of a way for Microsoft to make more money?
It would appear so. I mean, that's got to be part of the reason. The thing is, they did a very good job of it, really, if you think about it, because for years they've been saying, oh, we're going to stop supporting it, and then at the last minute it was like, no, well, all right, we'll give you another year. So everybody that's been on the edge of their seat thinking, are they? They've been given a false sense of security. Now all of a sudden they've actually said, yes, we're going to do it, and they've done it. Everyone's panicking, and they're spending millions on getting specific support for something that's no longer supportable. I just read somewhere that some government department over there in the US is having to do exactly the same thing and spend millions with Microsoft for XP continuing support. It's insane. Just trying to find the article now. I can't find it in a moment, but there was something on Engadget or a site like that saying that there was a government entity in the US that's, throwing loads of money at Microsoft. It is insane, really. I can't find it, sorry.
I came across... hey, Mike, it's below those settings.
What is below those settings?
What you're looking for.
Oh.
At the very bottom of the chat.
Jeff Bundy, you're right. Thank you. Jeff Bundy said who it was. It was the IRS. Yeah, like we don't really have the IRS here. We have Her Majesty's HMRC, I think it is over here. But yeah, basically the same thing. They're still on XP as well, and they've had to pay a fortune in order to continue. So even though they stopped supporting it, Microsoft's raking it in.
But the article that I came across says nearly every long-time Windows user looks back on Windows XP with a certain fondness. But the party's over, according to Microsoft. It's time to move on, says Tom Murphy, Microsoft's Director of Communications for Windows. XP was designed for a different area. But Ian Pohl writes in PC World that many people around the world refuse to give up on XP. But why? What's so great about an operating system that was invented before the age of Dropbox and Facebook? An OS that's almost as old as the original Google search engine.
I can answer that.
Bob Appel, a retiree based in Toronto, says he uses 12 PCs in a personal Dropbox-like network, 10 of which are running XP. He says, I use a third-party firewall, a free virus checker. He runs house call periodically. And he says, my Firefox browser uses Key Scrambler, HTTPS Anywhere, Ghostery, and Disconnect. I also have a VPN account. When traveling for suspicious email attachments, I deploy private proprietary BioWare, which he described as me, to analyze before opening. All the experts say I am crazy. Thing is, I stopped the security updates in XP years ago after a bad update trashed my system, and yet I have never been infected, although online for hours each day. So, crazy though I be, I'm sticking with XP. That's his take on it.
I think the answer is simpler than that. There are some people for whom transitioning to Windows 7 or Windows 8 will provide zero additional benefit.
Right. True.
But for the security updates. Now, I'm not diminishing the need for security updates. I'm not saying those aren't important. I'm saying that all things being equal, there are a certain number of people for whom, assuming that XP were continuing to be maintained, that buying a new computer, putting it on Windows 7, Windows 8, updating the computer, getting everything up to date, provides zero benefit for what they're doing. The application runs exactly the same, does exactly what they want it to do. Right. Even, for example, I use a program called Adobe Audition, version 1.5. Right. It runs on Windows 7, but there is zero benefit to it. It doesn't take advantage of the additional memory. It doesn't take advantage of the additional cores. It's a standalone dedicated function. It works fine on XP. There's zero reason to move Adobe Audition 1.5 to a Windows 7 or Windows 8 computer with 32 gigabytes of memory. It just doesn't matter.
Absolutely.
I've tried it.
You are correct.
I know I am.
If it works, don't fix it. It's like a car, isn't it? You don't renew it every year. It still gets you from A to B. It's got a seat in it. It runs perfectly okay as long as you maintain it and look after it and change the oil occasionally. It's going to work fine.
Right. And it's going to cost you to go to Windows 8 or
and
Windows
not just
7.
Money, time, heartache, headache.
Yep.
Yep. And you'll end up being bald like me. Well, not really bald.
Well,
but
there you go.
Lose your hair.
But that being said, I am sensitive to the idea that Microsoft has to stay in business. They have to continue to grow, and they can't live on a sale they made 12 years ago.
Well, if they depending on the people with XP to go up, then I think they're going to go out of business.
Okay, your microphone setup is not working.
I know. I just saw it. I just saw that it's very, very low.
Well, it's because you're off axis. You're not.
No,
talking
I'm not.
into the microphone.
Really.
No.
I mean, you can watch
these,
me and see. I mean, it's pointing. I mean, it's burning my lips with the laser.
Something's wrong.
Yeah, I know. I just noticed up there on the thing that it's not going up as high. But let me do this, and now it's going to be okay.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'll say the word and everybody can laugh. Okay, so the word is PC-Matic. Have you been, we've all seen these PC-Matic commercials, right? Well, they are capitalizing on this whole Windows XP thing with a new series of commercials they've come out with. You got XP, you can keep using it. Don't worry about it. Just use PC-Matic, and it is hilarious to watch.
Yeah.
If you like your operating system, you can keep your operating system.
Right.
Yeah.
Andrew's area, he uses PC-Matic, right, Andrew?
I don't even know what PC-Matic is.
One of those things that you go online and it checks your machine and finds all the problems, and then you download the program to make it faster.
I had a phone call first thing Monday morning at about 8:30 in the morning saying, "Oh, hi, Steve. How are you?" "Oh, all right, thanks, Dad. Listen, we've got XP, and we just had a message come up saying that they're not supporting it anymore, and it's dangerous to carry on using. What am I going to do?"
Oh, no.
Help me. Oh, dear. I thought, my God, that's a good way to start a week, isn't it? 8:30 on Monday morning.
Listen to this guy. Mike Merritt uses an XP PC to run his online business in rural Ontario and cites Outlook Express as one of his major reasons for sticking with XP. The once popular email client isn't available with Windows 7 or 8.1, and for Merritt, alternatives such as Thunderbird or webmail clients like Outlook.com are non-starter. Webmails have a slower load time than a desktop app like Outlook Express, and they would have their own learning curve and modifications to my current workflow. The upgrade path for me would require replacing a bunch of things that work just fine as far as I'm concerned. And that is true. And by the way, mentioning Outlook.com, it's not going to be free anymore if you're using your own domain. Are
they going to grandfather the people using it?
I don't think so. I think they were saying that it's not. Yeah, I've got it here somewhere, so we'll get to it later. But another guy says, the same day that Windows XP reaches its end of support on April 8th, Microsoft will roll out a major update for Windows 8.1 that will make it easier for traditional desktop users, and the company recently announced that the Start menu will return to Windows sometimes in the coming months. Mike Eldridge says that since his computer is currently on its last legs, he's going to cross his fingers and hope for the best until it finally dies. I'm worried about security threats, but I'd rather have my identity stolen than put up with Windows 8.
Well, that's easy to say before it happens.
That's a stupid remark.
That I know, but he's making a point. Come on, Nick. It is stupid.
Why is Windows 8 so bad? Why does everybody complain? Why doesn't somebody try it?
Sucks.
Have you used it?
Forget it.
No. Have I used it?
Yes.
Yes, I have used it.
Ugh.
Oh my! Who cares?
I do.
You don't have to use Metro. People don't use it. People have never tried to use it, and then they complain.
I would love for you to install Windows 8, not without this new update, and try to use Skype. The Windows 8 version, not install a separate application, but use the Windows 8 version.
Why would I use the Windows 8? Why would I use the Windows 8 version?
That's a totally different argument you're making there, Mike. The Windows, I run Windows 8 and I run Skype, but I'm not going to run the Skype Windows 8 app because it's just a bad app. It's not a problem with Windows 8. It's the app.
I disagree because it's integrated into the operating system and it doesn't have. And you guys help me because I don't understand what the concept is that all the applications run in the full screen mode or something like that. That's not even my complaint. My complaint is that they did not include all of the settings in Skype in the Windows 8 version that are included in the desktop version.
Of course.
Now, having said that, the workaround was to be able to download and install the separate desktop version of Skype, which we were able to do. But I mean, even trying to shut the darn thing down remotely, it's just awkward the way the whole thing works.
Are you running like Shell 8 or something like that?
No.
Well, there's your problem.
It's not my computer.
That's beyond the point. That's a fix.
So you're telling me I've got to go get a third-party Band-Aid to make it a good, well operating system? If
you have complaints about shutting it down, then yes, I would say that would be a solution to the problem.
Well, I came up with a way to do it. I did a workaround, but I mean, it's just wasting my time having to go in and do that kind of nonsense when there ought to be a shutdown button on the darn computer. There is now.
And the thing is, Microsoft agree with you because of all the complaints that they've received from the hundreds of thousands of users around the planet, and that's why they bring it in as 0.1.
I am not dogging on Windows 8. I think Windows 8 is probably a very good operating system. But
underneath it is, yeah.
To me, I'm trying to think of a parallel with a car manufacturer, which they make a very good quality car, but they make a seat in it that you can't move back far enough that the steering wheel's not sitting in your lap or some stupid thing like that. I mean, to me, it just doesn't make any sense. And I'm actually looking forward to this new update where they're going to I heard that the new start button was actually not going to
wait until Gene calls in.
Okay. I've got an example for you regarding cars.
Go ahead.
Well, Mike, hi, I'm back, by the way.
All right.
Hi, Andrew. Yeah, with the cars, you know, when it's years ago, you used to, if you wanted to relax back in your seat in a car, you had a lever to pull. You pulled the lever and it went back, vunk, and you were gone. You could actually lie back and relax and go to sleep, whatever you wanted to do. Now you've got this stupid turny thing, or it's electric, and you've got to go turn in order to relax back a little bit. Bring back the damn lever, for goodness sake. And that's what Windows 8 is like. They've improved it, but in theory, they've improved it a bit, but it doesn't suit everybody.
Remember, Mike, you're bringing up 8. Windows 8 had a lot of problems. We're at a different operating system now. 8.1 and 8 are different. They're two different releases of the operating system.
All right, Andrew, assuming for sake of argument that what you're saying is totally valid, then shame on Microsoft for releasing a crappy Windows 8 operating system.
Agree with you 100%. Okay. Windows 8, it was not a... Well, Windows 8 was under Steven Sinofsky, and remember, Steven Sinofsky had a one-track mind, so he was pushed. He did not want desktop at all. He was treating desktop as an application rather than the operating system. They got rid of him. They got rid of him, and they totally redid the entire concept behind Windows, where now they're bringing back the start menu. They brought in a lot of the elements. 8.1 Update 1 is all the features that were added were for mouse and keyboard users. And Windows 9, which will be coming out next April, will totally revert back to what people want.
How many times has it been said, if you look back over history, Windows 95, whoa, that was amazing, brilliant. 98, not so good. 98 second edition, much better. Then you get your XP, that was a good operating system. Vista, a load of rubbish. 7 is what Windows Vista should have been. And you've got me in between there as well. Every other one is like well, there we go. We'll shove this on the public, let them beta test it, sort out and complain about all the problems, and then we'll bring out the one that we should have brought out, but we can't be bothered to research and develop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, hold on a second, guys. Gene, are you here?
Yeah, I'm on. I'm on.
Okay, wait. Hold on a second. Who else called in?
Me.
Who's this?
This is Bob.
Hey, Bob.
What's up?
Not much.
I've been listening to all you talking about the great Windows 8.
Yeah?
Windows 8 is as good as CP/M. I mean, I'm talking about OS2. I'm one of those that worked on OS2 on the INF files for information. Let me tell you, ever since Microsoft gave up working on the a portion of the kernel for OS2 way back in 1985, 84. Bill Gates made a big mistake. He's been trying to coax Microsoft folks to get that kernel from IBM still today, because Windows will never imitate the kernel in OS2. OS2 is a fine, great operating system, still is. It had a hell of a lot of diskettes.
It did.
I hated loading up those diskettes. In fact, IBM trusted my work so good that they sent me an 8595 LAN server and a Model 70 desktop client, and also a token ring and all kinds of stuff. And I had that thing. I had never seen a system working that good. But the problem is, those machines were microchannel. Still the greatest wiring system ever, but nobody was buying them. They were buying the Macintosh. I couldn't believe it. Macintosh hit the market back then, and they were buying those machines. So Microsoft and Apple ganged up against IBM and their microchannel and the OS2 and made a bad mistake, because OS2 is still the best microcomputer operating system. There's no doubt. In fact, I think it's going to have a comeback as soon as some of those phony machines. One good thing about microchannel is you can switch out components like that. I mean, they were like on rails. You can take out that hard disk. Anybody ever seen that microchannel machine? Any one of you?
Yeah.
Okay, you know what I mean about you're pushing the two levers on his edge, just pull that hard disk out?
Yeah.
Can you do that with any machine like that?
No.
No.
But not everybody could have done it anyway. Let's put it this way: not anybody would have done it.
Well, it's such a great machine. It costs a hell of a lot of money. Microsoft, IBM should be ashamed of themselves for being so greedy at the time. But they were trying to stop Bill Gates. But Bill Gates had the momentum going. But I remember when, I go way back when, I was a mainframe operator. I was an IBM 360 operator. But I remember when Apple went to digital and looked at the mouse. Digital had a mouse and didn't know how to market the mouse. So they took the mouse and marketed it and come out with well, there was several machines before the Macintosh, but
we can, Bob,
famous. Yeah, go ahead.
Bob,
we
can come up with all kind of mistakes that Microsoft and IBM and all the computer manufacturers made throughout the years. That's not going to change anything about today, because you always hope that the next step is not going to be a mistake. But I understand that. I understand where you're coming. I understand where you're coming from. And this is interesting information, but it's not going to change whether or not people like Windows 8.1 or not.
Oh, it is.
It's not going to help them. If anything, it's going to deter.
During the next 5 years, you fellas will see a big change taking place in all industries. Just keep your ears open and your eyes on the new products coming out. You'll see.
All right. That's okay. That's fine.
We marked it down.
Yeah.
You know why? Because companies with lesser money are going to be knocked out. I went to work for a company that I sold 3 machines to the Chief of Naval Operations in the Pentagon because they were transportable metal contained microcomputers and looked like they could stop a 50 caliber bullet, right? But they couldn't. But the thing is, they were the most rugged thing on the market. That was 1983. 1983, I was selling transportable with an attached 80-dot matrix printer. I mean, that's all the Admiral wanted, was a self-contained computer. Only one company, Jonas International. They couldn't last more than a couple of years. They ran out of money.
Bob, we have Gene waiting here to talk, and he's going to talk about his experience with Windows 8, and I really want to get him in.
Oh, get in.
So thanks for the info. Thanks for the call, man.
I'm listening.
Okay. Hey, Gene.
Yeah, I'm here.
Go ahead.
Yeah, okay.
So tell us what happened.
Yeah, okay. I should probably start by saying I've got 5.
Oops, we can't hear you good.
Okay, let's see now. Can you hear me better now?
Yeah.
All right. I've got 5 computers in the house. 2 are on XP. They're kind of single purpose. One runs my security camera, and that's all it does. So I don't see any need. I mean, the camera is not going to. The picture on the camera is not going to look any better with Windows 7. But at any rate, I've got 2 with Windows 7, and then the latest one I have is a Lenovo ThinkPad Helix. It's separable to it separates to a tablet. It's called an Ultrabook.
Yeah.
And that had Windows 8 on it.
Yeah.
I got a notice. I can't remember whether it came in an email or just one of these notices you get from Microsoft saying there's a free upgrade to 8.1 available, and talked about how it's going to be faster. It's got much more apps, and we're going to bring the start button back. And you may recall, Adnan, before I tried to even decided to update it, I called you.
Yeah.
And I said, I think I'm going to give this a try. And yeah, okay, go ahead and try it. Well, that was a mistake. I basically went through the upgrade. It took a long time. I can't really write. As a matter of fact, I left the computer running while it was going, and I went outside, did something, and came back in. So I can't tell you how long it took, but it took quite a long time. And it came up. The start button was back, but it's certainly not the classic look. And so I ended up putting the shell back on anyway to get the classic look. So they did put a start button on, but it still isn't the classic look I like. That wasn't the problem. The problem was I looked to see if I was connected, and I looked down at the taskbar, and it says I'm connected. So I see what connections are available to me, and my router, my Netgear router is available, and the extender is available, and then I have a Jetpack for Verizon, and I turned that on, and that showed. And so the computer is seeing my connections. I go to get on the internet, and I can't get on. So I start messing around with what you would think would be the normal things to do, check out to see if the IP address is valid, ping, and going through all of that, and all of that's fine, but I still can't get on. I cannot get on the internet even though it says I'm connected. I finally do a few other things. I can't remember how many things I did, and got to a point where it was determined that the connectivity was limited, and that was the message I was getting, a limited connectivity. So I went to my other computer, got online, started Googling, and lo and behold, this problem is prevalent on a lot of devices with 8.1. There are incompatibilities all over the place. One of the suggestions was to go to the Lenovo website and download a new set of drivers for 8.1 for the new software. So I went ahead and did that, put it on a flash drive on the other computer, brought it over and installed it, rebooted, brought up the Lenovo again, still didn't work. So I said, well, I'm lost. I can't figure it out anymore myself, so I started calling Lenovo support because it's still on warranty. I got hardware support, and they wanted to go through some of the same things that I did, and I told them I had done all that. But we tried a couple other things, and it still didn't work. I still couldn't connect, so they passed me over to what they call their premium software support. I got a young lady on the phone, and the first thing she tells me is that if you had called and asked us whether you should upgrade this to 8.1, we would have told you not to do it. And they acknowledge that they're getting a lot of calls, and there are real incompatibilities with 8.1. And so what we ended up doing, I'll cut short, we went through a number of things, but what we ended up doing was resetting the TCP IP protocol. I think the command prompt was something like net.
It doesn't matter. If you don't know for sure, don't even say it.
Yeah, okay. But it was net. I know that was NetShare or NetSH WinSock reset. We did that, rebooted the computer, and I'm back on. And as best I can tell, what that did is it reset the TCP IP protocol and whatever else WinSock reset does. But that was the only thing that worked. So, guys, it was like 2.5 days. Not all day long, but hours I spent on this thing, just to find out that, in fact, there are incompatibilities. It's not easy. So if you want to try it, go ahead, but you better be willing to spend some time.
So you were told that the Lenovo computers have a problem with the update to 8.1.
No, what I was told was that there are a lot of devices that 8.1 is not compatible with. They didn't specifically say Lenovo.
Oh.
Now, that's not a Windows problem. That's a manufacturer's problem.
Correct.
So it's not fair to blame Microsoft for that. If these developers, the Windows 8.1 has been out, these manufacturers have not made drivers, then it's their own fault. It's not Windows' fault.
Nick, we're not trying to blame anybody. We're trying to make people aware that updating to 8.1, they may have a problem.
Yeah, but
Nick, you have to understand, Nick. I go back to when IBM hired Bill Gates. Okay, so I can tell you this: you don't put something out there when you know it's going to cause problems. You don't put a notice out and tell somebody how good something is and how you really want to do it because it's faster and there's more applications and that kind of stuff. When you know that they could potentially have problems, whether they're problems with your software or problems with their devices. It wasn't ready for it. They shouldn't have done it. I call it unethical almost.
Did you try since then to find if they had updates for those things that didn't work?
Well, yeah. I mean, I did find the right software on the Lenovo support for 8.1, but I still had to do a lot of resetting on a computer that the average person can't do. I mean, you're going through all of this stuff and command prompts and pinging, and the average person can't do that. I mean, somebody just sees something that comes into that system and it says, "Boy, upgrade, it's free, it's going to be better," and that kind of stuff. You do it, and then bingo, you're in the soup. That's not right.
Well, the thing is, you were a quote-unquote early adopter.
I knew what I was getting myself into. I mean, I told you, I thought this was going to be a little risky, and certainly was. I mean, it could have surprised me and it could have worked, but it didn't.
Because here's Bruce is saying he had zero problem whatsoever with his 8.1 update. Uncle Guy is saying he updated 2 machines, no problems. So there are certain things that could have caused it, and we can't really blame, like Nick was saying, we can't blame Windows, but we're not looking to blame anybody. Just be aware that something may change. It's just like changing an operating system. It's like a whole new service pack, and you may need to get new drivers.
Right. And, the danger is this, especially if you're not because a couple of times when I was talking to support people on it, well, I called Netgear support, too, because I thought initially it might be a router incompatibility. And what they wanted me to do is go back and reset the computer.
Yeah.
And refresh.
But
so, if you don't know what's going on, I mean, you can get all screwed up with this stuff.
But you don't have any problems now. I mean, it's working
on
8.1. How do you
got it.
So how did you say that you put classic shell again?
Yeah, because the start button they have still isn't the classic start button. It's not that good. And so I like the start button. It says start. I hit it and I can find everything. I know where the control panel is, and on and on and on. It's they put a button there, but it's not the same. It's not the classic button.
Hey, Steve? Is that our Steve?
Sorry, yeah. Microphone was muted, sorry.
Is that you saying that your Lenovo laptop?
Yeah, I was on Windows 8. I've put Windows 7 on it as well so I can dual boot. But the upgrade from Windows 8 to 8.1 as it is now went without hassle. It took about half an hour, I suppose, all told. But the update was no problem whatsoever.
Well,
so even if it's the problem is you listen to people out there, and you've got somebody that unfortunately does have a problem with maybe a Lenovo machine or whatever make it might be, and then that's what everybody then remembers that has heard that is they say, well, yeah. I've heard Windows 8 8.1 upgrade was a nightmare. I've heard it doesn't work well on Lenovo, but that's what humans deduce that from hearing a manufacturer's name and a product, and then they automatically assume it's like that for everybody.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's just the way humans are, isn't it?
Yes, and he's absolutely right, by the way, because we say Lenovo, but there's Lenovo and there's Lenovo. This thing got down to, there's Lenovo products pure, there's Lenovo ThinkPad, there's various models and types. This thing actually got down to a Lenovo ThinkPad Helix, almost like specific type. So you just can't generalize and say, the problem's with all Lenovos, because it obviously isn't. But it is with the one that I got.
Yeah. Well, good experience, good story.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's something that you don't really want to go through, but you learn a lot go through it.
All right.
All right. I'm going to hang up now.
Thank you.
Care.
Thanks.
Right up. Bye.
You know what? I give props to him for actually updating.
You what?
I give props to him for updating. Everybody else just likes to complain, and he's somebody that was willing to update. Good for him.
Well, it's not a matter of like to complain.
No, it is. That's exactly what it is.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
All right.
People don't want to put the time into it, and they want to complain. So he upgraded. He had a bad experience, but he upgraded.
Yeah.
But most people don't do that. Most people will just, there's problems. I'm not going to upgrade. Want to try it.
I don't know that somebody who trying to update and is having a problem is not going to try again and again when you can get online. You're going to have to do something.
But the thing, people just don't want to upgrade because they're lazy about it. People will just not want to upgrade because it takes too much time. I don't want to upgrade.
You can call me lazy in this scenario because I don't want to spend a lot of time trying to rebuild my machine.
Well, and that's the problem with people is they'll complain that stuff isn't working, but they don't want to upgrade. But it's your own fault.
No, if I'm going to start complaining that things are not working right with XP, and I'm
not even talking about XP. I'm talking about Windows 8. I'm not talking about XP. I'm talking about Windows 8 here.
I understand, but any update, if people are not going to do it and complain about the current one, then it's definitely their fault. But I also don't believe that you should run right out when something new comes out and upgrade to it, because you could face a problem that nobody came up with. Let other people do it. Wait a little bit and then upgrade.
Yeah, I don't like this mentality now with Windows 8 where I'm not going to upgrade because it doesn't have a start button and I'm just going to write a blog post and complain about it. That's total BS.
Yeah,
Stop being lazy, upgrade,
there are solutions and workarounds around the start button. There always were. And that's the nice thing about using a PC is that there are a lot of people out there that write programs for it and can put it out. And one of them was Classic Shell. And it brought back the start button that everybody wanted. Here it is.
So Nick, are you running Windows 8 without Classic Shell?
I'm not running Windows 8 on my desktop.
Oh, well, why aren't you updating?
He's running Windows 7. There's no reason.
I have a Windows 7 license.
You're just being lazy.
No, I have no reason to update. But if I went out and bought a new computer, I wouldn't complain and reinstall Windows 7 on it.
You're being lazy.
Well, I'm being lazy, but I'm not going to sit here and bitch and complain that stuff isn't working and then not want to do it.
Can I sit here and giggle instead, though, please?
Now,
it's just so annoying.
Here, guys, I'm putting a link in there in the chat.
TuTube?
Huh?
TuTube?
TuTube? Oh, shoot. I messed up. It's YouTube. Let's see if I can fix it.
Well, while you're fixing it, let me just explain to an issue that I ran into on a Mac yesterday.
Wait, before you do that, I want to talk about this a second. This is their BASIC. The language BASIC is 50 years old. This week, So watch this YouTube video and tell me if you see something that strikes you. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, if you're done,
Yeah.
I'll change the subject.
Yeah.
For starters, I'm a member of a group of lawyers, 4,000 lawyers on the listserv. Probably, I don't know, it's a higher number of people there using Macs than in the general population. I would suggest that probably 6% or 7% of them are probably using Macs.
Right.
And there are more complaints of problems with Macs there than there are complaints with PCs. Take that for what it's worth.
Like what? I mean, can you think about a couple of things? I mean,
I would have to go back and look through them.
So nothing sticks in your mind.
No.
Okay.
And just annoying things, no big deals.
Yeah.
Just annoyances. And I just tell them that if they want it to operate like a PC, they ought to go buy one.
Right.
So anyway, that being said, I ran into an issue yesterday with a Mac Pro, and it's one of these deals where it's sort of hard to know whom to pin on this problem on, and it has to do with internet broadcasting. It turns out that if the information I was given is correct, I did not find this information. It was given to me. If it's incorrect, don't shoot me. It's not my fault. I'm a victim. But apparently the Mac Pro, the new one, does not have an input for audio. It does not have an analog input on its sound card. It has 2 analog outputs, but no analog inputs. If you want to send audio into a Mac Pro, you have to buy a Thunderbolt or USB sound card. Fair enough. I don't have a problem with that. It seems silly, but that's the way it is. All right. So then if you're going to use a Behringer mixer to send your audio into your Mac Pro for Wirecast, then the audio is going to be on that USB connection. It will show up in the Mac Pro as USB audio codec. All right. It works so far, no problem. Now you've got this big, powerful, rich computer that you want to do a mix minus on that computer, which means you need another audio input. So you grab a Behringer UCA 202. Okay. Now the Windows operating system will see either the mixer or the 202.
Windows operating system?
No, Mac.
That's what you just said.
Okay. Yeah, you said Windows.
I didn't mean Windows. I meant Mac.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the Mac Pro.
And for those that don't know, the UCA 202 is another sound card.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it sees one or the other, doesn't see both?
Correct.
You should need both.
It should.
Oh, Mike, it's a Mac. Because it's a Mac.
Oh, well, it doesn't even use sound cards.
Yeah.
It just works.
And how much is the Mac Pro? Like $3,500, something like that?
I have no idea. I mean, I disagree with Nick. I think it's a great computer.
So what did you end up doing?
I had him use a second computer.
Wow. Well,
now that's not the permanent solution. The permanent solution is he's going to get a different brand of sound card so that it will use a different driver. Now, Eric is saying that it sees both, but they are not labeled. Okay. Well, if they're not labeled, how do you access one? It does not show up as 2 separate entries. He's wrong about that. And the guy called Apple Care to find out how he could relabel one of them, and what do they call them? Geniuses. Yeah. Said, can't do it.
There you go.
Well, maybe that's exactly what happened. I mean, you were on you were helping somebody online, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they saw that they were the same name, and they said, I only see this one. Maybe there were 2 of them. But he was telling you there was only one because it was named the same thing.
Don't know. I was seeing a screen.
Oh, okay. Never mind. Okay.
Skype. It was funny because Skype could see both.
Oh.
But whatever the whatever the Mac settings window is that you allow us to select them, it just, I don't know. It just didn't make any sense to me. But Unlike Nick, I don't agree that the Mac Pro is not a good computer.
Why are you saying unlike Nick? I didn't say anything but bad about the Mac
you were
Pro.
bad-mouthing it yesterday when you and I were talking about it.
I wasn't bad-mouthing it at all. I was saying that Leo Laporte said that so Leo Laporte bought a Mac Pro. They currently do all of their editing on Final Cut Pro on the Mac. They're using older Mac Pros. Leo Laporte bought a Mac Pro and said it's going to end up costing me $10,000 per machine to get people to edit, so he moved to Windows for editing.
Yeah, but explain why.
Because there's the adapters and stuff for the Mac Pro will end up costing him $10,000 an editing machine. He has to buy Thunderbolt this, USB that, Thunderbolt this, Thunderbolt this. Thunderbolt cables are like $50 a piece. I mean, there's legitimate problems with that thing.
But you were saying about the fiber.
Yeah, he'd have to buy a Thunderbolt adapter for it.
Okay.
And I think that thing only has 1 or 2 Thunderbolt things. So then you've got to buy a Thunderbolt hub. God knows how much that thing is.
I understood a Thunderbolt device had a throughput, so you could plug something else directly straight into it.
Yeah, some do, not all of them. Like
I thought that was one of the criteria for being classified as Thunderbolt.
Maybe. Like I know like the Blackmagic capture cards that are Thunderbolt have a pass-through, but I'm not sure if everything does.
I thought that was the criteria to be passed Thunderbolt compatible, that you had to have that on that device.
Perhaps, maybe.
I may have read it wrong.
Information.
I came across something interesting the other day, which I meant, well, not the other day, actually, it was a couple of months ago, which I meant to mention to you, Mike, regarding sound cards. I hadn't noticed it up until I was fiddling around with the sound card on here. There's a setting in it that says it will send the output to the earphone socket on the front, the same as what's coming through the audio output line out on the back.
The listen button.
But you can also send a different output to the headphone output on the front, which I didn't realize is what that control did. If you switched that off, it would allow you to be able to put 2 different outputs to different outputs, if that makes sense. You know, you could have like Winamp playing on one and the audio coming from the web as default on the other one, which I thought that is brilliant. Yeah, it is, because normally whatever you get out the front, you don't normally have a switch that says send something different to the earphone socket, because obviously the earphone socket's on the front, and predominantly you're going to be plugging headphones into it.
But different sound card manufacturers and driver providers handle those issues differently. That's not universally done that way. I mean, I use M-Audio Delta 1010 LT sound cards, multi-channel sound cards. I have 0 sound card issues. I mean, I've got more capability than even I can use with 3 computers sitting here all revved up and ready to go. But that being said...
They've got 10 inputs, haven't they, on those, which is very unusual for a sound card in a computer.
Yeah, it's really 5 stereo.
Sorry, yeah, with 10 monos, 5 stereo, yeah.
Well, no,
the other thing as well... The reason I wanted to bring it up was because I found it very unusual, because generally speaking, what comes out of the headphone socket at the front also comes out of the back. So I was quite surprised to see that and thinking, well, that's ideal. That would be perfect for a Skype machine if configured properly.
Yeah. Well, the problem with using the Delta 1010, Dan, by the way, Dan's asking a question. I'll get back to that question because I should expand on that to make sure that people don't get the wrong idea. But the problem with the Delta 1010 LT card for Skype is that Skype does not use ASIO drivers. If it did, you would have actually 8 individual inputs, but you don't. You have 4 stereo inputs plus SPDIF. But it's not a big deal. I mean, that's really about all. I mean, I'm pretty power user here. I could probably eliminate one of the computers by putting everything together, but then I would need to add monitors to keep things from sitting on top of each other, and I may do that one day. But if Skype were to recognize the ASIO drivers individually, that is, I could have a caller on channel 1, a caller on channel 2, all the way up to channel 8. That would be really, really sweet, but that's not available yet. But going back to this Mac Pro issue, one thing that happens is that, and I'm not totally clear on this, but it has 2 jacks on the back of the computer. One is headphone, one is line out. I'm not sure, but I think you can individually address those 2 outputs, which was what got to the problem that we were trying to work out with this USB sound card interference issue. in that whenever you go into Skype, you could see both USB sound cards. Skype is good on drivers for the most part. However, if you went into setting the default playback device for the operating system, meaning that iTunes would play back through the default output, then if you I can't explain it because you have to back into it, but the way you do it is you have to set one for the default so that the Hangout client, the problem was the Google Hangout, which I never mentioned that, and the problem was that if we set it up so that he could use the default input on the second sound card or the mixer, then he would not be able to play iTunes through the headphone jack. And for some people, that's not a problem. That can probably work okay with very little effort and a little creativity. However, the reality is that if you've got 3 sound card outputs, it would be nice to be able to use those, because what he wants to be able to do is to be able to stream from the mixer to Wirecast, all on the same computer. The trick is doing it on the same computer. Would be to stream from the mixer to Wirecast using the USB connection, interact with the Skype caller on the same computer using the UCA 202 for input and output, and being able to play iTunes music out of that computer into a stereo channel in the mixer. And without doing some creative stuff, it doesn't work out of the box. But now, I said earlier on, I don't know whose issue this is, because the operating system, Windows does it, Mac operating system does it, and that they use generic drivers. Who wrote the drivers for the USB audio codec for the Mac? Don't know. Don't know if Mac wrote it. Don't know who wrote it. It wasn't Behringer. But Behringer says you don't need to install Behringer drivers in the Mac operating system. By the way, they also say you don't need to do it for Windows 7, but Amnon will tell you that's just not true.
That's not true.
And,
you're right.
And in my experience with multiple people using Behringer USB products, you're crazy if you don't install the USB driver for the Behringer, and you have to get it from the Behringer website.
Yeah, it's not there.
Well, it will show up, but for example, the volume, for some reason, whenever you send an audio signal using the non-Behringer driver through the mixer, it just slams the audio input on the computer. You barely crack it open. So anyway, going back, Dan, to answer your question, he says, is the Mac Pro for Mix Minus a no-go? The answer is no, that's not true. You can do it, but in my opinion, you will be better. If you're going to use a Behringer mixer to send audio over USB to the Mac Pro, you need to have a sound card that is a different brand to keep it simple. Now, Eric says you can do it by getting under the hood, and maybe that's true. Not only do I not know if that's true, I don't care if it's true, because I'm not going to do it. That's a Mac problem. I don't deal with Mac problems. Then that being said, if you get a second card, and the one that these little Mac boys recommend is the Griffin iMic, IMIC. It's like $23 at B&H, $29 at Amazon. Theoretically, when you plug that in and connect it up, then you should be able to do everything you want to do, send audio over the mixer to the USB, send Skype to and from the Mac Pro using the iMic, and sending audio from iTunes out the headphone jack or the line out jack on the Mac Pro back into the mixer. So no, it's not a no-go. You just got to get the right tools to make it work. It's like anything else. You can usually hack things and make them work, but people want to keep it simple. And I endorse keeping it simple, because for people who are not dead into the technical side of things, you get it set up, and I work with guys, and we get things working. We'll hack into things and get them working. But then all of a sudden something breaks or the computer crashes and they go back into it. Now they can't get it working again. So I think keeping it simple is a good idea.
Keeping it simple is always a good idea.
Yes, indeed. Mike, you mentioned Delta 10 sound card then. That's a PCI card, isn't it? PCI slot.
It is.
Are you aware of a PCI Express slotted,
there is
more
not
up-to-date There isn't one, is there? I've been looking as well. I can't
Nope.
find one. How annoying is that? Because you'd have to buy a computer with a PCI slot in it, which if you want a compact one, you can't find.
And, well, I've got all my i7s have PCI slots, and at my age, I figure they'll last as long as I will, at least as broadcast machines. So,
well, the unfortunate thing there is if you want a nice compact slim machine, you aren't going to find one that's got a PCI slot. So you have to buy a big juggernaut in order to do it.
Now there is an adapter. StarTech makes one, and I've seen people use it before. It's a PCIe to PCI adapter. So
I wonder if it works.
I know somebody personally who bought one, and for what they're using it for, it works.
Didn't
Does
Andrew
it stand
buy one?
outside in its own little box?
I don't know if Andrew
whatever
did.
the card is.
I have a friend that bought one though.
Nick, does it stand outside in its own little box, whatever the card is that you're slotting into the PCI?
No, it just plugs
Express?
into the PCIe slot. You power it with the thing from the power supply, and then you just plug the card into that. Here, I'll post a link to it in chat.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I know a friend who has, I don't know if it's the exact same model, but something similar, and it seems to work fine.
Brilliant, thank you.
Is there a good USB card? Actually, that's a good question, Tim. And I think the answer is yes, but I sense that, and even though I try to keep up with audio, this is something I'm not really up on because I've reached out to a couple of the manufacturers and they're just not interested. But I suspect that you're going to look at a what they're now calling USB audio interface as being the replacement for external USB sound cards, and we're talking about things like the I forget the name of them now. The PreSonus makes one. There's several of these. They all started out as, or most of them.
Is it the Fire Studio?
Well, that's FireWire though.
But they're I now, it's also USB.
Well, now they are. They're evolving into USB versions. Okay. And I even Behringer has one. I know Mackie has one. They call it I forget. I don't know the name. I've never used one. I've got some theories on them. I mean, M Audio sort of started the external box thing with their M Audio boxes, which I've never played with one of those. I've got some real questions about some routing issues with those that I think they could be some sweet little solutions, but I'm not going to go spend $300 on one just to be able to report they work.
Well, Mike, what's the difference between that using something like this or using the UCA 202?
Well, the UCA 202 is a single function device. It's a sound card only.
Yeah.
These USB interfaces have mic preamps built in. They have monitor routing. They have analog outputs. I mean, they're a lot more expensive, and none of them so far that I've seen has enough channels to emulate the Delta 1010LT. For example, if you look at, and I'll try to look it up here in a minute, but there's a big manufacturer making some things that has, I believe, 6 outputs on it, but I don't know if I don't have one. I don't know if Skype's going to recognize those outputs individually. I know that programs that recognize the ASIO drivers, like Audacity, like Audition, what's the other one, Reaper, they can work really well with these interfaces, but the real question is whether they will work well with Skype, which at this point in time, most internet broadcasters need them to work well with Skype.
Yeah.
And really, I mean, for everybody else, what we're talking here is not for your average user to get anything like this. It's for something like a broadcaster trying to do. We need to have more audio. And
yeah, I'm stunned though how many people are getting into some things, some of this broadcasting stuff. It's pretty surprising.
I'm putting that link again, and that's Jeff Bundy is the only one that says. Now, Jeff, take a look at the 2 minutes 18 seconds in that video, and somebody is making an appearance there. This is something that Nick and I talked about last night. A new study published in the March edition of the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology indicates that a gamer's experience of a video game and not the content of the game itself can give rise to violent behavior. In other words, researchers found it was not the narrative or imagery, but the lack of mastery of the game's controls and the degree of difficulty players had completing the game that led to frustration. Based on their findings, researchers note that even games like Tetris and Candy Crush can inspire violent behavior more than games like World of Warcraft or Grand Theft Auto if they are poorly designed and difficult to play. Like if people can't play them good, they may get violent. I mean, the person has to be violent to begin with.
Let's talk about this for a second. Essentially, what that study is saying is that if you get frustrated, you have a chance to become violent.
Yeah.
That's the same with everything. My computer blew up 2 weeks ago. Amnon, how pissed was I?
I know, but that's
I could have thrown the thing out the window. I was so pissed. That has nothing to. I mean, all that study is saying is that, which I think is common sense. If you get frustrated, you're more keen to.
So the thing is, when somebody goes out and shooting, don't blame it on the content of a game. Oh, he saw
but that's essentially. But why does that? I don't understand what the study has to do with why it brings gaming into it.
What you don't understand, Nick, is that these studies are paid for by grants. If someone's not doing a study, they probably are unemployed, so they have to go find things to study. And when they study things, if they don't come out with a little what we would call a disruptive conclusion, nobody's going to read it.
Yeah, it just I hate the whole blamer game thing.
Well, that's the thing.
Anyone who's paid for the study is going to have bias towards them in the result of the study.
Yeah.
I mean, Nick, this is an argument in your favor. Why are you looking at it in a negative way?
But I don't understand. It's always gamer.
Wait a second. Wait a second. Every time something happens that somebody goes out and shoots people, they say that it's the games that they played, as though it's the content. Here is something that proves, or not proves, but shows a different angle to it. It's not what he sees in the game. He just got frustrated on that game, and that could have done it. But sure, if he was trying to learn how to drive and he couldn't master it and he couldn't get his driver's license after 10 times that he was tested, he would probably get just as violent. So this is really in a gamer's favor.
Yeah, but all these stupid news media people are still going to blame gamers no matter what.
No question about it.
Then next
this
time
study doesn't change that.
Next time you can bring that up. Say, no, here, look, it's not the game, it's not the content of the game. It's that guy had no business playing in it if he didn't know what to do.
A lot of it, as well as they'll pick on the easiest reaction, the easiest answer to the strongest reaction they'll get from the general public. And at the moment, it seems to be gaming.
Yep. It's an easy thing to blame.
It's like when we had the London riots. The most important thing, in my view, should have been what caused the London riots, what made people come out onto the streets and then riot like they did. Because we're normally, a fairly peaceful country, generally speaking. But they didn't look at that. They looked upon the fact of what can we do to stop this from happening again, in respect of what do we need to have in place in order, like with water cannons, do we need to use rubber bullets? Do we need to seal off roads? Do we need to throw more police at it? No. That's everything you're looking at is to defend yourself from it happening again. What you should be looking at is what triggered it. What caused these people, the initial reaction, what caused them to come out? That's what you want to look at, and that's what you want to fix.
You can't fix people.
No, unfortunately, no.
Right.
But you ought to be able to fix the way people think about things and what they concentrate on, because sometimes, well, more often than not, they're concentrating on the wrong end of the stick.
All right, let's switch a little bit away from this. This is interesting here.
All right, but hold on just one second. Let me finish up on something here I've been researching after the conversation.
All right.
The external USB interface that I have been looking at, the one that if I could get my hands on one, the one that I would like to test would be a Focusrite 18i8. Focusrite 18i8. Because it is a multi-channel USB sound card, it has a lot more on it than just being a USB sound card. It is not a direct replacement for the 1010 LT, but there are things on here that are in addition to the knobs on the front of the box, there's an awful lot of software control. There are things that you have to manage through the control software with regard to routing and all of that. And I don't know how that works. I don't know how good or bad it was. If Focusrite sent me one of these, I'd evaluate it. But I'm not going to spend $350 so that I can tell people it's a good or a bad deal. Mm-hmm. I'm not that dedicated. So anyway, I just wanted to offer that. I posted a link to it on Sweetwater in the chat, and that's the box that I'm referring to as being sort of the next generation of interfacing USB boxes with the Internet. And as far as I know, this is Mac and PC compatible. It says it's a USB 2.0 audio interface, 18 inputs, 6 outputs, 4 mic preamps. I mean, these are what it has in addition to what the 1010 LT has. In terms of this being a standalone box at $350, it's not a bad price, and it has very high quality preamps on it. And so anyway, I don't know. It may be a good thing, it may not. I'm not overly blown away because I don't need it. If I were portable and wanted to operate on the road, like if Bruce, for example, Bruce uses his. You're using your mic on USB, aren't you, Bruce?
No, I'm actually using the Behringer 302 USB. But what I was going to say, I had an old USB headset that had this dongle with it, and that headset also had an analog in. So this is a sound card in and of itself. And when the headset went bad, I kept this, and I'm glad I did because this has afforded me some interesting combinations of moves when you consider that the laptop I'm on has a sound card. This is a sound card. Now, this is very simple, okay? It's just, input and output. The ATR 2100 is its own sound card, and the Behringer 302 USB mixer is a sound card. And that combination has afforded me some interesting kludgy things to do regarding, like if I'm doing Skype, I can't do a mix minus, obviously, on this little Behringer 302 USB. But with the combination of these 4 sound cards that I have, I can do some isolating because Skype, of course, allows you to select different inputs for, input and output and everything. And it's kind of interesting. But I love this discussion, and I appreciate you putting that link in there. That box looks interesting.
Huh. But this is a pro. I mean, these Focusrite makes really high quality microphone preamps. Now the 349. I mean, I got a preamp over here, a single mic preamp that costs $1,500. So this doesn't have 4 of those built into it for $349. But in terms of what you get for the money, Focusrite is hard to beat. Now, having said that, I have a buddy who is a national voiceover artist. He records voiceovers for NBC, the major networks, as well as local guys. I mean, anybody in the Raleigh area for the last 20 years has heard him 25,000 times. He's not in the market right now as far as I know. But anyway, he's done a lot of work here. He installed a Behringer mixer in his remote studio. This guy has $3,000-$4,000 mic preamps, a $12,000 microphone that he uses, excellent monitoring equipment. He is a pro. He knows what he's doing. He has excellent hearing. He put this little Behringer mixer in his studio, in his van, in his RV, and he was commenting this past week about how blown away he is about how transparent those microphone preamps in that little Behringer board are. So this is why I say to people that when you see these recording guys bad-mouthing the Behringer mixers, and I've got a problem with Behringer, I don't mind telling you, but when you see people bad-mouthing these things about, oh, this is going to sound better, that's going to sound better, I am telling you that in the Internet broadcasting world, you will not be able to tell a difference between a used Behringer 1602A mixer or 1604, whichever one it is, and a Manley Vox Box mic preamp. You're not going to hear the difference. And the reason why is because the medium is not able to reproduce the difference. And even if you were listening in a studio on headphones or even on a Genelec monitoring system, 99% of the people would not be able to hear the difference. So I'm done with that.
And that's why we're using them, right?
Yep.
Yep.
You cannot beat them for the money. I don't. Hands down. If Mackie would put a USB sound card in their mixers, I probably would start recommending Mackie's over Behringer's. But that USB sound card built into the Behringer mixer is really convenient for a lot of people, particularly when it comes to a mix minus. It gives them a second sound card that they don't have to fight with on their computer, but for the Macs. So that being said, I still recommend Behringer's, but at some point Mackie, I think, is going to have to put a USB sound card. They do it in their Pro FX series. I don't know why they don't do it in their VLZ series. But if they ever start doing that, as far as I'm concerned, for podcasters, it's a game changer. I think Mackie manuals are better. I think Mackie support is better. The quality of the Mackie mixer, contrary to popular belief, is little to none better than a Behringer. They're all made in Chinese sweatshops. And they're more expensive, but they're not that much more expensive. So we'll see what happens.
We will. All right. Listen to this now. Lucy Mangan reports at The Guardian that new labor agreement in France means that employees must ignore their boss's work emails once they are out of the office and relaxing at home, even on their smartphones. Under the deal, which affects 1 million employees in the technology and consultancy sectors, including the French arms of Google, Facebook, and Deloitte, employees will also have to resist the temptation to look at work-related material on their computers or smartphones, or any other kind of malevolent intrusion into the time they have been nationally mandated to spend on whatever the French call la dolce vita. We must also measure digital working time, says Michael Delaforce, chairman of the General Confederation of Managers. We can admit extra work in exceptional circumstances, but we must always come back to what is normal, which is to unplug, to stop being permanently at work. However, critics says it will impose further red tape on French businesses, which already face some of the world's tightest labor laws. But I like that. You getting out of the office? Don't look at email. You don't have to answer your boss's emails. You are not allowed to look at the computer. I mean, you can work on the computer, but not work related.
Actually, Amnon, it's actually that way in the United States now, but there's a differentiation. And one is that if you are an exempt worker or a non-exempt, and that means exempt or non-exempt from overtime, if you are a salaried full-time employee, you can be designated as exempt, which means they can work you all they want to, so long as by the time you get through the end of the week, you have made an at least minimum wage for every hour that you have worked. If you're a highly paid person, there's no way you could work enough hours to reach that threshold. So there are not enough hours in the week. But if you have an employee who works by the hour, and you have that employee checking email and responding to email on weekends, by law, you have to pay them for the time they spend working for the company.
Interesting.
Absolutely, if they're by the hour. In fact, I had a situation, it's been 40 years now, so I can tell it. But we used to own a radio station, and we have I had a lady working for us, and I love her to death. I mean, she and I are still friends on Facebook. She's a smart lady, no question about it. But back in those days, she could type so fast that she could out-type an IBM Selectric 2 typewriter. We had a standard back in those days, an old key, the one where the keys would pop up on the typewriter. And she got really frustrated because she typed so fast that the typewriter couldn't keep up with her. When she got we got her an IBM Selectric, and she still, that's the one with the ball on it that's really, really fast. Mm-hmm. She had to adjust herself a little bit to be able to work it. But she was she was typing in those days well over 100 words per minute accurately, which is the way you measure words per minute. But anyway, at one point, we had a disc jockey, and these people are very unusual in many ways, but this disc jockey actually turned our radio station into North Carolina Wage and Hour Department because they said he was not being paid for all the work he was having to do. If you work in the radio business, particularly in the old days, it was not a 40-hour work week. I mean, it was a 48-hour work week from the get-go. So, I mean, we agree to pay you X number of dollars per week. That wasn't for 40 hours and then you get overtime. That was for a 48-hour work week. And the saving grace about it is that people who are doing that work absolutely love doing it. And a lot of these guys, when they were off work, were still hanging around the radio station anyway. So it wasn't like digging a ditch for 48 hours a week, and it certainly was not hard physical labor.
Yeah.
It was fun. So it's not as bad as it sounds. But anyway, this guy said, I'm not being paid what I should have been paid. He turned us into Wage and Hour. When Wage and Hour came in to investigate us, they don't just look at that one complaint. They audit you completely, top to bottom. And this guy went into our bookkeeping office, and he's in there talking to this lady who does all this work. She was also the bookkeeper. And he just asked her, he said, really? He said, how's your day going? Well, I get here about such and such, and then I leave so and so, and it's what I do. Okay, now the point I was going to make before I get to the story, she typed so fast and worked so fast, she literally had half her day with nothing to do. At first, we thought she was being lazy and not getting her work done, but we actually looked into it and found out she was getting her work done, getting it done accurately, which is the first time as a manager that I got over the idea of working by the hour instead of working by the task. She was able to get the job done and done right, and therefore whenever she had time on her hands, the only issue we had after that was she had to go find something else to do and not go disturb other people doing their job who don't work as fast as she did. It was a real problem. So anyway, what I'm getting to is this guy asked her, really? He said, now, well, what time do you take lunch? Oh, I take lunch from 12 until 1 o'clock. Uh-huh. Well, I notice you guys are kind of out here in the country. What do you do? Do you go out and do you go to a restaurant? No, I sit here at my desk and eat lunch here at my desk. We don't have a lunchroom or anything, so I just eat here. Uh-huh. Well, if you're sitting at your desk, what if the phone rings? Well, I answer it. That's what you have to do. You answer the phone. Oh, okay. And if they need something, do you call them back or do you go ahead and do it? No, I'll go ahead and do it. It's easier to go ahead and get it done. Bottom line is he found the guy who reported us, he said, well, I've got good news and bad news. What? The good news is the guy who reported you, as far as we're concerned, is overpaid. And as far as the lady up front, you owe her $990 for overtime and back pay. Had no choice but to pay it. And this is 40 years ago. That was a lot of money back then. And so the bottom line is that the law says you cannot make people work on their time off.
Yeah.
And even to this day with my employees, I won't let them eat the lunch at their desk. If they want to eat, don't want to go out and they want to eat in, get up and go to the lunchroom and eat in there. You're not going to eat at your desk. When you're but even at a management level, Bruce, I mean, I think you would agree, people need to take a break. If you work all the way through lunch every day, you're not going to be as refreshed and ready to tackle issues as you are if you take a break and go think about a ball game or something over lunchtime.
Absolutely. Yeah. My wife gets on to me about that regularly. Instead of taking lunch at my desk, she'll serve it out in the living room, and we'll talk or read a book together or watch a rerun of Judge Judy, anything but work.
It's good for you.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Couple more things quick here. Those of you that travel a lot, the in-flight internet access provider GoGo is working on a service that will increase the maximum data speed on planes to 70 megabits. Of course, that's shared, right? So it's shared among how many people on the flight are using. But this is still fast. Faster than many people have it at home. And
who needs it?
Yeah. For the last 15 years, all of us at DYN have taken pride in offering a free version of our Dynamic DNS Pro product. What was originally a product built for a small group of users has blossomed into an exciting technology used around the world. That is why, with mixed emotions, we announced the end of that free hostname program today, officially turning down on May 7th. So if you're using Dynamic DNS,
DYNDNS.org, it's DYN. They've got a new domain, but they're only getting rid of the free service, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because I've got a paid service with them.
Yeah, a lot of people have their free service, so and can't blame them. Can't blame them a bit for doing it. Now, here is something that I'm hoping
there are
we'll
alternatives, by the way.
Yeah. Mike, this is for you to comment on. If Windows XP were a photocopier, Microsoft would have a duty to deal with competitors who sought to provide aftermarket support. A new article in the Michigan Law Review argues that Microsoft should be held to the same duty and should be legally obligated to help competitors who wish to continue to provide security update for the aging operating system, even if that means allowing them to access and use Windows XP's source codes.
So what are you asking me?
I'm just saying, I mean, is it true that if you have a device or something that you are no longer...
No, that's somebody that's offering that as a... They're trying to make that argument float, but I don't know of any reason why that argument could be considered.
But is the
valid.
argument correct about hardware, like photocopier?
No.
Okay.
No,
right.
But somebody is offering... I mean, it gets to be a complex question. Somebody is trying to make the argument that they have that duty, and the presence or absence of that duty is a question of law.
Okay. All right. I mean, I was just...
I might say you have a duty to stay on Access in front of the microphone, and you might argue that you can talk anywhere you want to because it's your show. And that's just a disagreement over the obligations that each of us might have.
And for those of you around here and other places, Comcast has emerged victorious from Consumerists' annual Worst Company in America contest. Comcast narrowly edged out Monsanto in the finals with 51.5% of the vote.
He didn't just say Monsanto.
I did. The reigning champion for the past 2 years, Electronic Arts, lost in the first round to Time Warner Cable.
Ding, ding, ding.
Time Warner Cable made the quarterfinals, which is notable because Comcast has proposed to a merger with TWC. In fact, Comcast submitted an FCC filing today explaining why they think the deal should be allowed. They say the companies don't overlap or compete against each other. Other strong contenders for the worst company in America include Chase, SeaWorld, Walmart, Bank of America, and Verizon. I was never aware that there was such a thing as worst company in the United States, but obviously there is.
Well, we're Time Warner customers. It's believable.
Well,
what is it?
You know,
Is it based on
ITWC
company?
wants to merge with Compass.
Sorry, what? Say it again, Steve.
I said, do you know why TWC wants to merge with Comcast?
It's the other way around.
Because
Why? It's
well,
too-
the other way around now. So the two companies want to merge together, whatever.
Is two negatives make a positive?
No, they're fed up of having two separate companies in the top five. That way, they're only going to have one company in the top five.
Is that based on company or is that based on support?
I don't know.
Because you know what, Time Warner Cable, as crappy as their stuff is, their support isn't that bad.
No, the
Now.
support is good.
Now,
Yeah.
No, I mean, when you end up with somebody that knows what they're doing, like second or
It's-
third tier, they know their stuff.
Yeah, it's just getting there is the
Yeah.
problem.
yeah, the problem is you got to be a lawyer and threaten to sue them to be able to get to somebody who will help you sometimes.
True.
But I will tell you this, and Amnon can, I think, verify this, that Twitter has been fairly useful at getting TWC off their butts.
Yeah, I tweet them every time I have a problem because I don't even waste my time calling anymore.
Yep, they get back to you. If you're using Chrome and you're not updating it, Google Chrome has a flow that allows any website you visit with a browser to listen in on nearby conversation. It doesn't allow sites to access your microphone audio, but provides them with a transcript of the browser's speech-to-text transcription of anything in range. It was found by a programmer in Israel, who says Google issued a low-priority label to a bug when he reported it, until he wrote about it on his blog and the post started picking up steam on social media. The website has to keep you clicking for 8 seconds to keep the microphone on. And Google says it has no timeline for a fix. I guess what you should do is turn down the volume on your mics. Unless you're using it. If you're using Chrome.
Why did you say that you have to update it then?
Well, because as you update, maybe there will be a fix.
You don't run updates on Chrome though.
Yeah. It's kind of automatic, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, there's no way. I don't believe that there's a way. There probably is a way to turn off updates, but it doesn't even ask you to update. It just does it. So unless you've specifically gone out of your way to turn it off,
mine comes up, and especially during the show, I don't do it. It'll come up and say, "There's an update. Do you want to do it?" And I said,
Google
no,
Chrome?
Not now.
Chrome? I've never seen it.
I've never seen a Google Chrome update.
Or maybe it's Firefox.
It's probably Firefox.
Does.
Okay, maybe it's Firefox.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Now, Chrome has never asked me for an update.
By the way, on Chrome, if you're concerned about Heartbleed, there's a really great extension called Chrome Bleed.
Yeah.
That you can install, that if you go in your Chrome browser to a site that is vulnerable, you will get a warning.
Okay, cool.
Chrome Bleed.
Yeah, it's interesting. You brought nobody brought Heartbleed.
The host.
It's because our hearts are bleeding all about it.
Why don't you explain that, Bruce, in case anyone hasn't heard about it?
I'm probably not the best one to explain it from a technical side.
Yes, but you sound more authoritative.
Well, it had to do with some vulnerabilities in OpenSSL, whereby you could be your passwords, bank passwords, and other things could be made available. Somebody else can probably explain it better than I am. I didn't get into the weeds on it as far as the definitions. All I had to read a few places was this is really, really serious, and you really, really ought to change your passwords. It's been a lot of discussion about using, different security things like LastPass and other.
The problem is that when there's an SSL, an encrypted conversation back and forth between website and browser, sometimes the browser asks for information. And if I'm asking you how old you are, you can either say 60, or you could say 60 and I was born in this hospital at that moment in that city, and that city had so many people. I mean, more information than what you're asking for, right? That's what was happening also with OpenSSL, is it was giving back more information than what it was asking for. And the more information is not about you. It's about others, because it will go and take a chunk of the memory and send it back to the browser. Now, that's the reason why they say, hey, it's not as bad as it sounds. Because if you don't know about it, I mean, you don't go into your browser and you look to see, okay, did I get more information than what I was asking for?
Yeah, and that's the key here, is so that people made the articles and stuff made it seem like it was sending back passwords. It was sending back everything.
Right.
So you could only query 64K worth of data at a time. So you could be getting 64K worth of useless stuff about the population of a city, like Amnon said. Right. And there's no way to know if you were getting username, passwords, or stuff like that. It was just 64K worth of random data. You couldn't say, I want this or I want this. It was just whatever it sent to you. So that's like that's where I do agree that you should probably change your passwords, but it's not like it was a password only vulnerability. It was everything.
Right, and don't run out to change your passwords on sites that were affected by it. Remember, the problem is not with your browser, it's the server that you are connected to where that site is hosted that may be vulnerable.
Right,
because,
but the vulnerability has been there for 2 years. And
right.
We don't know what the data store is that somebody may have trapped. So
exactly.
I disagree with you. There are some sites on the internet that will give you a list of some of the most popular sites that are vulnerable and were vulnerable, some that were not. I would suggest if you find a site that you use on one of those lists that you go ahead and change it. I did change quite a few of mine.
The problem with changing it right away is
if it's patched.
If it's not patched, it's false security.
Sure. Oh, no question. But I can't imagine any major company not being patched right now.
Right.
If they're not, you need to quit using them.
Some of those sites that Mike is talking about with the list will actually tell you, was it affected? Was it patched? Should you change the password? Yeah.
So how Gmail affected?
Yeah, all Google services were affected,
The what?
I believe.
Gmail, all Google services were affected.
Yeah.
And how does one go about updating this, Amnon?
Updating the server?
Yeah.
You have to update the OpenSSL.
Do you just do an apt-get of it?
Well, it's not as simple as just getting an app. And is that what you said?
Yeah, just an app.
No, you have to install a new version or update. Depends on your on your operating system. You can do a package update, and not only that, but if you were infected, if you were not infected, if you were affected, then you have to go out as the ISP and get new certificates for all these people, for all these sites, which can be, I mean, can you imagine? Yeah, Google can go ahead and change the thing, but if you have an SSL certificate with them, now you have to go and get a new SSL certificate to install there.
Wait, so people have to update all their certificates?
You have, as an ISP, you have to, yeah. Because if your certificate was vulnerable and somebody got the information, they already have it.
True.
So now they can tell other people what to do.
So that's not a big deal for, like, me.
No. And it's not a big deal even for me. And I'm an ISP. Now, the thing why it's not a big deal for me is, again, here's XP argument. Ron did not update OpenSSL since version 1.0, which is about 2 years. Thank God. Because 1.0 was not vulnerable. 1.01a was. So none of our customers were affected because the server was never updated to the one that had the problem in it. Now, he did upgrade one of his servers with it, which he didn't have many customers on, and he spent a whole day going and chasing and getting new certificate. And I said, Ron, why? He said, Amnon, I mean, what's the whole point here? I mean, we don't know who is and who is not. So the only way to be safe is to actually change it. And Ron is very conscientious about security, as I am. And he did it. And I'll bet you if ours were, him and me will be working days and days to get new certificates for all these customers. And the nice thing is the issuers will allow you to actually have a new certificate without paying for it.
That's good.
Yeah. And I'm hoping, I mean, can somebody call Computers 2K Voice? I just want to make sure that it's not the same problem because the guest did not call yet, and I want to make sure it's working and it's not another problem with.
I would call, but
919-518-9773. I just.
Is she calling on the phone or via Skype?
via, I don't know. I told them to call them to call Skype because it'll be better. But I said, if not, then she can use... Uh-oh. Oh, there it is. Okay, no, so it's okay. All right. I'm just hanging up here. Yeah, it's working. Okay. Well, being here it goes. You see, Nick, somebody who is all the way up in Hawaii, which is what, 6 hours, 7 hours?
5, I think.
It's sometimes they don't call you. Okay, now, wait a second.
Well, as long as you don't get frustrated and go out and shoot somebody, everything's fine.
Well, you can just blame the video game. Oh, speaking of which, Nick, I had a question.
Yes.
What has EA done to make so many people?
Oh God!
Mad?
Don't even get me started.
Are they here in Cary?
Where do you start? For goodness' sake, I'm not a gamer, but I know
every
some
single
of the
game
stuff.
launch that EA does is a total train wreck. Servers are down for weeks. Games are unplayable. It's a disaster every single time. And now they're just the laughing stock of the internet when it comes to game launches.
And how are they still in business?
Because people still buy their games.
Why?
I don't know. I still buy them because they're good. But
Because they love being tortured.
There's that initial period in the games where, in the launch of a game, you just, like, for example, the worst launch was SimCity, which is an online-only game, and the servers are down for the first, week. So I bought the game, and it was useless to play. Because, you couldn't log in and play.
Amnon, I believe they're inside of your house.
Who?
EA.
Why?
They have a big office here in Cary.
One of the problems with EA is that they're so absolutely scared out of their minds of people ripping them off and counterfeit copying their games. So they actually they got to such a level and such a scared point that they ruin it for people that genuinely buy it. And then, which you would think, I bought it, I should be able to get through and play the game online, whatever else. But they've made it so ridiculously complicated that their customers are being tortured, basically.
I have a web host. I do have a shared server on a web host, and this guy is so security conscious. I tell him that he's got it locked down so tight that even legitimate users can't get in.
Well,
Epic Games is in Cary, Brent says.
Epic Games?
I'm not a gamer, so I don't know. So EA is not Epic?
No.
Okay. Well, that's good.
EA is Electronic Arts.
Yeah, I had heard that somewhere, but there are several game companies here. Isn't Epic a big one?
Yeah, they're a pretty big game company. See, I have an Epic game somewhere.
If you think about the name, they should be.
Yes, a name is everything.
Epic.
Oh. Mike, to log into your account on Delta Force, legitimate users cannot do it unless I have their IP address. I'm talking about for FTP and.
I understand, and for some places SSH. That's fine, but if you've got my IP address and I'm DHCP, then it's a real pain, and at a certain point I may decide it's not worth it.
Right, but if you are DHCP and it changes a lot, we have a program that you can run before you FTP. Just click on it, and it runs a key for you.
Okay, so what you're telling me is you provided a solution to the problem.
Yeah.
I'm telling you that I was unable to log into my reseller account last week, and I sent the guy a blistering email, and he responded, and he said, I'm sorry, that's a bug in cPanel. We thought we had updated it and fixed it. It has now been fixed. You will never have that problem again. And that's the second time I've heard that.
Wow.
And as soon as I logged in, it was fixed. I mean, he did whatever he did, fixed it.
Okay,
but
so
that's
that was
nonsense.
cPanel.
I don't want to play with that. I mean, what if somebody called me and said, oh, my site is down? I only host for a few friends, but their sites are important to them.
Right.
Mike, my site is down. Such and such has happened, or it's been hacked, and I can't even get in because of a bug on cPanel.
That could be a problem. I agree.
Hey, Amnon.
Yes.
I had to order a heatsink for the Raspberry Pi.
Really?
Yeah.
What was getting hot?
The CPU.
And you couldn't get one from an old...
No, that thing is so small.
You don't have bad motherboards? Yes, you do.
Yeah, the heat sinks on the bad motherboards are huge compared to the size of the Raspberry Pi.
I think there's a small one on something. If you look, you may see one.
That's fine. I already ordered them.
That's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
They were only like
but
$3
tell
or
people
something.
what you were doing with that.
So I've had a Raspberry Pi for like 2.5 years now, and I just recently set it up as like a 24/7 internet radio streamer where I can just play back like shoutcast streams and stuff like that. And this, when I went to bed last night, I accidentally knocked the Ethernet cable out of the Raspberry Pi, and I went to plug it back in, and I burned my hand on the CPU. So I unplugged it because I don't want to ruin the device by getting so hot. So I unplugged it, and then I ordered a heatsink.
Yeah, I mean, you may be able to just put a fan on top.
Yeah, but the fan makes
where's the
noise.
case? Show everybody the case.
Yeah, here's a little case.
That's the case for his Raspberry Pi.
Actually, funny enough, it actually just stopped playing.
But you could maybe put a fan to just blow on the thing. But yeah, I mean, a heatsink is the best way to go.
Yeah, let me see. I can post a link to it. It was like $3 or $5 on Amazon.
Does it actually have some place where you can? Is it made for the Raspberry Pi?
Yeah, that's why I bought them.
So there are holes or something to hold.
No,
the
it just uses like 3M tape.
Oh,
yeah,
interesting.
Yeah, here we go. $5.10 for 3 heat sinks. One for the CPU,
foot long?
one.
$5.
Yeah, one for the CPU, one for the GPU, and one for another
all
little
three
component.
of them. I'll be.
Yeah. Biggest one's for the CPU, and then the other two are for.
That's cheap.
Yeah. Because I don't want the thing getting so hot that I ruin it.
Sure.
Because that's no fun.
No, absolutely.
And while we're on the subject of XP, before we wind up, and remind anyone that if you are still using it, and if you're using Microsoft Security Essentials, you need to get a different antivirus program, because unlike XP, Microsoft Security Essentials does stop working with XP.
I think it's not until sometime in July.
I thought it was May, but it may be July.
Maybe it's May.
But
No.
Why worry about it? Get it done.
Yeah. And
one of the thing XP related, and nobody's commented on it, and if somebody's not aware of it, April the 6th, Best Buy started running a promotion where if you bring in an old XP, and it has to be a laptop, can't be a desktop, but if you bring a running XP laptop, you'll get $100 credit in the form of a $25 gift card and a $75 coupon. So a lot of people went down there, including a friend of mine in New Orleans, brought a couple really old, barely working laptops that were running XP, and came back with 2 Acer C720 Chromebooks. You could use it on any other PC that you want to as far as purchase, but it's
they'll give you credit for multiple laptops?
3, no more than 3.
Wow.
I think it's either 2 or 3 per person.
The weird thing about all this XP thing is that I have never seen so many updates coming in for XP as I've seen this past week.
Of course, they're getting everything squared
It's
away.
almost every day. I don't understand. And there was an article that says that Microsoft Thursday announced a change on how it handles adware, a form of malware that pushes unwanted advertisement to the users. As of July 1st, the company's security products will immediately stop any adware they detect and notify the user, who can then restore the program if they wish. Currently, when any Microsoft security products, including Security Essentials and Forefront, detects a program as adware, it will alert the user and offer them a recommended action. If the user doesn't do anything, the security product will let the program continue to run until the user makes a decision. Now, here's the question that somebody is asking. If adware is malware, why wait until July? Why are they waiting until July 1st? And not doing it right off the bat? Very legitimate question. And adware can, in all cases, somehow leads to malware for sure. Now, if you live in New York City, New York City is now considering equipping its health department inspectors with Google Glass to provide a record of restaurant inspections. A year-long pilot program would require 10% of the 160 health inspectors to wear video devices, including possibly the much maligned Google goggles. Under legislative to be proposed Thursday, I think it would limit the abuse on both sides of the table, and it would allow for a more objective view by the judge on the violations that have been cited, said the bill sponsor Vincent Ignazio. Yes, I tend to agree. I don't think an inspector could go back and Photoshop bugs into the video.
Hogwash.
Huh?
Hogwash.
What, they could?
Sure.
All right.
What did you say, Amnon? I'm sorry?
He was saying this Google, the article is using Google Glass, the inspectors, and they would probably get more real-time and up-to-date observation of health issues with restaurants in New York. And Amnon was commenting whether they could Photoshop bugs into the video.
Oh, yeah.
Trivial. But they wouldn't do that.
Absolutely not.
Speaking of Google Glass, anybody on April the 15th tax day can buy Google Glass. One day only.
Yeah.
So get your money
Still
out.
$1,500, though.
I saw that. I don't understand it. You mean you can't buy it now?
No. It's a one day only thing.
Wait, who are you?
Who what?
I'm trying to understand why a company releases a product and you can't buy it.
Only special people can buy it.
Still in beta.
This is supposed to be a kind of a foreshadow that they're probably getting close to, being able to launch a consumer version.
Oh, okay. So it's not a released product.
No.
Oh, okay. That's fine.
You can become.
I didn't understand that.
You can become, quote, an explorer.
No thanks.
Yeah.
And if you're using
I saw several people that what you would not normally say. Please listen very carefully to the word I'm about to say. I think that according to these early adopters that will possibly buy them when they're available, glass holes.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Thank you.
Anytime.
Is Andrew Zarian an explorer?
Well, I don't know about an explorer, but he's never mind.
Stephen Haywood is.
Yeah, Stephen's got it.
Yep.
I think it's a brilliant terminology, to be honest. I mean, if it comes down to a price of, say, around $300 for that kind of technology, I mean, if that's inevitable, if it's going to happen, then brilliant. I imagine it would take off like anything. But $1,500, wow, that is...
Agreed.
Yeah.
And if you're using Facebook is removing the messaging feature from its mobile app, forcing users to download its standalone Messenger app if they want to chat with their Facebook friends.
Oh, no. How will I survive?
Starting today, which was last week, people in certain European countries are seeing notifications that over the next few weeks, they will need to install Messenger to continue sending and receiving Facebook messages on their smartphones. A Facebook spokesperson says the company has found that people get replies 20% faster on Messenger than on Facebook, and that new features are being continuously added to the Messenger app. For example, just last month, Facebook Messenger for iOS received an update that lets users create group chats and pin groups to get easier access to them. I'm sure there's more to it than just the fact that it's 20% faster. It's probably going to make it easier for them to update an app than to update Facebook.
Well, if it's faster, it's because you get this annoying pop-up on your desktop and noise and everything, which a lot of people promptly turn off because you don't want to be bothered with it, you know. So that's the only reason I can see it would be faster.
But remember, this is for mobile, for smartphones, not for your...
Correct.
For the desktop.
Right.
And if you have a Sony Vaio, Sony is warning owners of its new Vaio Fit 11A to stop using them immediately after discovering the hybrid laptops are at risk of catching fire. According to the Wall Street Journal, the company is currently in the process of notifying over 25,000 Vaio owners that their computers may include faulty batteries that are unsafe. We're back to faulty batteries. The Vaio Fit 11A was introduced worldwide earlier this year, offering a small screened take on its larger Fit convertible laptops, but has failed to make much of an impact. Sony says it sold 25,905 of the hybrids in total, which include 497 in the US, 7,000 in Europe, and 3,000 in Japan. It's likely that Sony will announce a formal recall shortly. Is this so hard for manufacturers? And I'm not a battery expert, but is it so hard to look back and say, did these batteries do okay in such and such and such? I don't know. It's a shame. Oh, you know, I mean, and besides, if you sold only that many, I would stop it completely. And TRMBS says that I sound Irish. Okay. Amnon Nissan, Irish.
To be sure.
Yeah. Well, we're getting to the end of the show.
Oh, no.
Anybody else has anything to talk about? I'm out of everything. Everything. Mike?
What?
Come on, don't you have something to talk about?
I don't.
Nick?
I'm really upset that we missed the caller today. I was really looking forward to that.
A what? Sorry.
No special.
I'm very upset that we missed the caller today. I was really looking forward to that. I hope they listen back to this afterwards and feel really guilty now.
Don't pay them.
Yeah. Nick, tell us a little bit about...
No.
Don't tell me no.
No. I'm having issues. Please don't. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Hey, let me ask you this, Nick, concerning and we can talk about it or not talk about it. I can't remember if we did last week or not, this Amazon TV set-top box and everything. Are you, as a Roku channel developer, interested at all in developing anything on this Android platform on the Amazon TV?
I don't think so, because it's just Android app development.
Mm-hmm. One other thing I would say is, after a long absence, for those of you who use it, Demonoid is back. You know, people who want to evaluate software before purchasing.
I don't know what to say about Demonoid. It's going back to the days when I was doing what I was doing. I've got an account there, and I dare say, I mean, you hear so many other sites getting their code taken, and then somebody completely unrelated to that site then starts it up. You're thinking to yourself, yeah, what a honeypot that would be.
Yeah.
And it's been off for such a long time now, and they're still working on getting it working right. Knowing the guys that used to be behind Demonoid, I honestly cannot believe that they would bring it back when there's still that amount of bugs there. Unless they've changed dramatically from the days when I was around. I just can't believe they would do it. They're not that sort of site. They like to make sure everything was up and running properly. Not, oh, we'll just chuck that up for now and we'll fix that later. They never used to be like that.
That's good feedback.
So err with a side of caution, I would. There's far too many sites like this that'll come back and they are a honeypot. They'll just grab your IP address and, IP thugs.
Okay.
Amnon, did you hear from Spencer this week?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I've heard from Spencer quite a few times, and he sent a message yesterday saying that he's probably won't connect today because he was going early to drive and look at the aurora.
All right.
Plus, he found out that at the apartment where he is, he's got free internet, but they have caps. So he thinks he blew it off already. He didn't know
in the first hour.
So he said he uses Wi-Fi now. So he said he's not gonna. He said he may call on the phone toward the end of the show, but obviously he's not. So yeah.
It was nice to learn the how important it is to use the word coach instead of bus. Now I won't make that mistake.
Yeah, but he's doing good, and he's driving those big things, and he's going in traffic, and apparently it's fine. Anyway.
Okay.
All right. Well, if nobody has anything else to say.
Apart from have a brilliant week, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Yep. Thanks, everybody. Good morning, Kathy, Hannah, Nabil, Mac, Norm, Katie and Hannah, and Donna. Thank you for tuning to Computers 2K Now. We hope you enjoyed and maybe learned something from our time together. Remember to practice safe computing. Back up your hard drive and update your virus scanner. We'll be back here next Sunday at 9, but you can always reach us at computers2know.com. While you're at it, like us on Facebook. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Tune in tomorrow morning. No, tomorrow morning there is no Health In or Breaking Free. Debbie and Marilyn are both Jewish like me, so it's Passover. It's the first day, so they're not going to do it. Of course, I'm going to be working. But at 7 o'clock in the evening, it is the Tanya Love Show. See you, everybody, next week.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. Our weekly lineup of call-in programs includes Computers 2K Now with Amnon Nissan, Health In with Debbie Bruck, Breaking Free with Marilyn Shannon, Lessons of Vietnam with NCVVI members, The Tanya Love Show, Reawaken Your Brilliance with Julie Seibert, and if you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it at www.nissancommunications.com. Sponsored by Atomus.com, makers of quality video recorders and converters for professionals. That VidBlasterGuy.com, CarolinaApparel.com, and DeltaForce.net.